This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The play action, Bennett looks down the middle, McConkey's wide open, touchdown Dogs!
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
It's Davis in motion. He's got it on the jet sweep. Darius Davis, blazing fast, lost the ball. It's on the ground. A scrum right near the TCU bench. Georgia says they've got it, and they do.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Duggan sidesteps the rush, launches downfield. Johnson, the intended receiver, but it's picked off. Javon Bullard patrolling the deep middle of the field, and it's the second takeaway for the Dogs defense.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Ball to the end zone. Bowers, touchdown. And Bennett continues to dazzle.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, welcome to 365 Sports. Paul is out today, back hopefully tomorrow. Craig Smoak is in here with me, and also behind the scenes, Garrett Ross and Jacob Wilson. Craig, that was a disastrous night for TCU. Obviously, getting there is a huge deal, a massive, massive season run to where they got. But last night, I mean, if anyone would have said that Georgia would have dominated the game, I would have thought maybe 40-17, something like that. But that thing got off the rails in a hurry.
Yeah, it did. Congrats to Georgia. They are clearly the best team in college football. I know that there's probably some Alabama fans or Ohio State fans that still would like to argue that, still would like to see, them match up another time in the Tide's case and another time in Ohio State's case, I bet, as well. But Georgia got to the title game, and so did TCU. And what we saw last night with those two going toe-to-toe was an absolute squash, an absolute bloodbath, and an all-time historic beatdown in college football and bowl history and national championship history. You pretty much name it. If you were thinking of what is a nightmare scenario for TCU, as great of a season as they've had, all the exposure, the untold millions of dollars in free advertising and things of that nature, the thrilling wins, all of that, what could be the worst possible way to end your season outside of like tragedy, right? And right. Obviously we're not talking about that. So what could be the worst way to end your season? I think that was it last night. I think getting beat by 58 points in the national championship game and never really having a chance beyond like the first half.
Not even that deep.
I mean, not even that. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is not even that really. That was rough. That was bad, and that was an incredible showing by the Georgia Bulldogs, who are an awesome team, and TCU is a great team as well. But that was a major reality check last night.
Here are some quotes from Kirby Smart, and when he mentioned this in the post game after the win, it made a lot of sense to me, and I think it made a lot of sense to others. And I even saw other fan bases say, "Yep." The disease that creeps into your program, he's talking about when you have success, is called entitlement. I've seen it firsthand, Smart said. If you can stomp it out with leadership, then you can stay hungry. And if you have a saying, and we have a saying around our place, we eat off the floor. And if you're willing to eat off the floor, you can be special. That's one of what you see when it comes to Super Bowl teams that don't repeat anymore. The Patriots, of course, were different with what they did many, many times under Bill Belichick with Tom Brady at quarterback, among others. But entitlement. And Georgia, even though in the semifinals they were a field goal being made away from not being in the game yesterday evening, they were able to at least avoid that. And in the end, they are the national champions back-to-back years.
Yeah, I mean, I think entitlement is a dangerous deal. You know, I believe that we saw that to some extent with Baylor this past season, of a team that felt like they had won a Big 12 and Sugar Bowl title last year, and that that was just going to be the way that it is, and just, you know, show up, and that's basically what you'll accomplish. And that was clearly not the case. This was a brand new team that got smacked around a bit more than they ever could have expected, and got brought down to earth in a major way. So I would think that, you know, for Dave Aranda's program, entitlement won't be it should not be much of an issue, at least in the immediate future. But that's just an example. There's plenty of other examples out there of, you know, teams or coaches or what have you, players being entitled, and it doesn't normally end very well. And, you know, when you're Georgia and you beat just about everybody, save, you know, Alabama, or a scare against Ohio State, and you've already won the national title last year, and, you know, you're destroying teams up and down your schedule. I mean, I know you can look at that, you know, Alabama, or you can look at maybe the Tennessee games sort of kind of, but, I mean, they demolished a good portion of their schedule. I mean, there were a lot of blowouts on the Georgia schedule this past year. So
they had two close calls, really. They had the game with Missouri when they had to kind of find a way to win, and they did, and everybody has to have one of those. Right. And then, of course, the game last week against Ohio State.
So when you're the defending national champions and you're destroying pretty much everybody on your schedule week after week after week, you're recruiting the top recruiting class. I mean, like, what is your edge? You know, what is your edge? And so, you know, I think for some guys, it's their personal stories and backgrounds that keeps them edgy and fueled up and always motivated. But I do think that success can lead to, you know, kind of resting on your laurels, or just feeling like, hey, we're Georgia and we're from the big bad SEC, and this lame team from the Big 12 is not going to, you know, out-physical us or outman us or what have you. And so I think Kirby Smart, the best thing that happened to his team, and I feel like there was a number of people thinking the same way last night, was that Ohio State game. You know, I don't know that if they go and they beat Ohio State by 17 or 20 points like they did a lot of other teams this year, I don't know if they show up the way that they did last night.
They were pissed off when they got there.
They were pissed off. They were ready to go. They felt disrespected. They had fake, you know, stories in their heads planted masterfully by the motivator and Kirby Smart of, you know, making his team believe that people actually didn't believe in them to some extent. It's like, I don't think anybody doubted Georgia, you know, really in many ways at all. But somehow or another, a team showed up last night that you would have thought that they had been picked to not even become bowl eligible this season. And yet, you know, they played like that, and yet they aren't that team. They are obviously one of, if not the most talented teams in college football, and the defending champions, and now the repeat champions. But, yeah, they needed to come in there, I think, with an edge last night, and they did, and that was bad news for TCU. That was the last thing that they needed to see, and it became clear pretty quickly why that was a bad thing.
When Holly Rowe, and this is, and again, I thought TCU, I thought they could win the game. That's how dumb I was. I don't know. I mean, it was never close. 10-7, okay. But, I mean, they just had their boats, you know, just blown up out of the water. And, again, they're not alone. They're not alone. But here's when I heard Kirby Smart say this right before kickoff, we can't use the audio for copyright reasons. But he said something to Holly Rowe. She said something to the effect, how do you know if your team is ready, or what are your thoughts about the game, et cetera? And he said, we are hunting tonight. We are going hunting tonight. Now, this is the team that somehow found a chip on their shoulder, as Craig was mentioning with Kirby Smart. But the way he said it, when he said it, I was like, oh, my God. They are locked in, not just who they are physically because they're gifted, but also who they are mentally, and pretty much from the beginning that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, they were dominant. It doesn't get more lopsided than that. It never has. That was history.
We were at a game, you and I, when we were in Tempe, Arizona, 62-24, Nebraska, Florida, right? Remember how much of a beatdown that was? And that doesn't even match the one we saw last night.
No, I don't think anybody even brought that up that I saw. Maybe some people did on your timeline, but that one, that didn't register with me. But now that you say it, yeah, that was a pretty lopsided game. The one I did see quite a bit of was USC-Oklahoma, when that game was, you know, between two teams that were far more eye-to-eye than those two teams last night. I mean, Oklahoma had, two of the Heisman Trophy finalists, and I think that was the year that Bush or Leinart won, so they didn't win it. But what was it, Jason White and Adrian Peterson, I think, or some combination of that. It was an all-USC Oklahoma Heisman final, and so they were, pretty eye-to-eye with USC. Oklahoma had been winning a bunch of games, and obviously it had the national title, somewhat recently before that, had played for another one after that and lost to LSU that kind of kickstarted the SEC empire. But then there was also USC, and then eventually they'd come crumbling down, with the end of the Pete Carroll era. And then pretty much since then, it's been, Ohio State here, but pretty much all SEC. And so, yeah, that was something else. That really was. That was something else. And hard to wrap your mind around just how good Georgia is and how much of a separation there is between them and many other schools out there.
We will, and again, those of you on the chat room trying to describe last night and your thoughts about last night, Hall of Fame linebacker, former Texas and Waco High star, played with the Chiefs and the Raiders, Derek Johnson. That was announced yesterday. He'll join us today at 3:30. Also, J.D. Davis, he covers GoMeanGreen.com. Eric Morris with that new staff in Denton, but also his thoughts about one of the new transfer portal additions for Baylor in the tight end Jake Roberts, who will join us today at 5 o'clock. Mack Rhodes of Baylor at 4:20. Craig's off the radar. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, as the NFL playoffs are about to begin. And Lovie Smith fired on Sunday. He'll join us today at 5:30. Baylor also picked up a linebacker, Mike Smith, who's pretty damn productive at Liberty. He now has joined Baylor and their defense as a commitment over the weekend. In fact, this afternoon, Colt Barber with that story from earlier this afternoon. So they're starting to pick up some of those, fill some of those roles and spots. They still don't have anyone at quarterback other than Blake Shape, and that remains, of course, a high priority. Now, here's a stat. This blew my mind. I know of it last night, and this is 65-7. I don't know how many people would have ever thought that. And again, that doesn't mean that some of you didn't. But this is something that last night when I was about to wrap things up, this blew my mind. There have been 1,500 bowl games plus, 1,500 plus bowl games in college football history. Georgia's 58-point win is the largest margin, the biggest margin of victory in a bowl game ever. And that makes sense. You don't usually see bowl games at 60-10. I think one time I've seen a couple of teams score in the 60s. I mentioned Nebraska, Florida, but even that was 38 points, 55-19 USC over Oklahoma. There are some that get out of hand, but out of all those games, that this was the worst, most lopsided bowl game, and this, of course, a championship game of all time.
Yeah, that's normally because teams are more evenly matched, I guess, in most bowl games than they were last night. And that's just a testament to how great Georgia is. And TCU, nothing to really hang their heads about. I do think there's, obviously some things to question and some things to wonder about. And I do think that the nature of that loss does make you rethink just the overall season. Like, I would think that you walk away from it and it's probably the best ride you've ever been on in your life if you're a TCU fan, and there's certainly a lot of things to celebrate. But at the same time, I don't think anything last night brought it into like, oh, man, I never want to talk about 2022 ever again or anything along those lines. But I do think that was so bad and so lopsided and one-sided that it does kind of change the taste in your mouth after the way that wrapped up, more so than had you lost, let's say 35-14, or, just maybe if they weren't, basically treating the fourth quarter like Georgia's going away party.
Oh, they did.
And getting everybody off the bench known to man, with 10 minutes plus to go. I mean, maybe that you feel differently, but that was so lopsided that I do think it leaves a little bit more of a sour taste in your mouth than just losing. By losing in such huge fashion. Yep. But, people in the chat and elsewhere listening on can let us know how they feel about, last night, and I'm sure that they will. But, it's hard to describe in so many different ways just how dominant that was. Nothing like we've ever seen, obviously, as you pointed out with that final score, and it could have been so much worse. It truly could have. And I'll tell you this is the one thing that I thought about more than anything last night was the fact that I've got a fire truck going by. Kaz Kazadi and the mindset of TCU and the physical nature of TCU and their speed and all these things that you know about them. And obviously we know about Kaz from his time at Baylor. one thing that I will own that I said yesterday and I was completely wrong on, and I mentioned this on the podcast as well, is I said that Georgia might very well win this game, and Georgia, very well is the better team. And I picked Georgia to win. But I just felt like if there was one thing that was not going to happen, TCU's players and their staff and all that, they were not going to, at any point, no matter what it got like, not be fighting and not back down. And they would scratch and they would claw and bite and do whatever they had, and they were going to give Georgia a fight. I was wrong. They did for a little while.
Yeah, they were beat down.
But they were done. They'd thrown in the white towel probably halfway through that game, and there was no, rallying, and there was no. I think even Kazkazadi was doubting himself, maybe for one of the first time. You know what I mean?
Well, doubting what he thought they would be that night. Yeah,
that's what that's what I'm saying.
Because they were just it was as if you're a
I thought if anything they would just stay in the fight.
And claw all the way to the end.
The fight got so bad that I just didn't foresee how bad it got, that it actually did reach the point where a team who's probably as mentally strong as almost anybody else out there in the entire country got mentally, physically, and emotionally broken last night.
I think it's because, and I heard Desmond Howard say this during halftime, and I don't always agree with Desmond Howard. In fact, he and I used to go back and forth quite a bit back in 2014 on Baylor, TCU, and whoever else was ranked at the time, the first year of the college football playoff. But he did say this, and I felt this way, and I thought this, and I wish I would have put it out there on Twitter, although that doesn't mean anything really, is that you could blame Ohio State, perhaps, for what we saw last night as well. One, Georgia's that good. TCU, it just didn't go well. In some cases, some of the luck, and I don't mean that in a lucky, like, they shouldn't have been their way. They should have been there. But I think Ohio State scared the hell out of Georgia, should have scared the hell out of Georgia, and I think that after that game, that allowed Kirby Smart to then use whatever anyone was saying about, TCU has a chance, whatever, in their favor. You can be physically ready. You can have great practices. You can be better across the board at every position, but they were also mentally as sharp as they could possibly be, razor blade sharp, as they entered that game when they came through the tunnel.
That was peak Georgia. That was Georgia on 10. That was
they don't need to be that good.
Nightmare scenario. And if you have the same mentality and you have the same emotions, running through you, and you have the same everything, but you take the players that Georgia has and the players that TCU has, and more often than not, pretty much every time, those Georgia players are going to win. Just you know what I'm saying? Just simply lining them up and playing the game. They have better players. They have a better roster. And last night, I think they have a bit better coaching as well. But they're just on another level of athlete, which is why there's the recruiting, talk that permeates all throughout college football and is a big part of, whether or not a team like TCU can recruit where they recruit and can ever be where they are, or can ever, now the question will be, can they be what they've been or probably better for the foreseeable future? These next couple years, they should still get some burn off this national title run. But does that, ultimately put them over the top, or is that, an insurmountable mountain, if you will, that you have to have back-to-back number one recruiting classes, or 10 straight top 5 classes, whatever Georgia's stats are at this point, to be able to reach that mountaintop. I don't know, but TCU made it awfully interesting with a bunch of classes that were nowhere near the level of Georgia's over these last several years. And you know what? Credit to them for getting to this point. But there was a talent disparity. I mean, TCU's best players were, completely held in check last night. Quentin
Johnson, Trey Hodges-Tomlinson had a tough night.
A lot of them did. Max Duggan had an awful night. Overall, obviously no Kendry Miller, but DeMarcado was not able to fill those shoes. And even if Kendry Miller was playing, I'm not sure if he could have filled those shoes. I don't know. He certainly would have helped rather than hurt. But, Georgia's just loaded for bear with talent.
All right, 65-7 the score. And we'll try to break if we can. Try to break here if we can. And then maybe I'll try to read some of those of you who have said things in the chat about last night and moving forward. But this stunned me, even with knowing the score 65-7. Here's a stat. Those were the drives that Georgia had last night. I've never, we've seen games get out of control. But, there's always going to be like a turnover on downs, or there's going to be a fumble or a pick. That's how sharp they were. All the way across the board, it's like an incredible lottery ticket with field goal and then end of game, and in between that, a punt. And it might have been, I don't know, maybe the opening drive of the third quarter when they already, of course, had the game at 38 or 35-7.
Yeah, that is just pure dominance. And I thought the TCU would be able to get – I wasn't expecting them to, hold Georgia to low-scoring numbers or anything along those lines, but I did think they'd get more than one stop the entire game. I thought they could at least get more than one, and they couldn't. That's how good Stetson Bennett was. That's how
Bowers,
good –
the tight end?
Bowers was incredible. They had absolutely no answer for him, and really TCU's defense had no answer for anything. I mean, Georgia was ripping off first down runs on every single carry, it felt like, or every single pass. It was just first down, first down, first down, first down. They weren't having to work the chains and do a lot of that, really. It was just a free-for-all and basically name your score and do whatever you want to do because, they did pull a lot of the starters there at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Could have made it as ugly as humanly possible, but instead had a nice, great swan song and really just a prolonged goodbye session for a lot of their veterans and a lot of their starters. But, kind of going back to the mentality thing and all of that, like I said, you could have the right mentality and just physically get whooped, and they got physically whooped last night. Still, you expect TCU to fight like they did against Michigan. It's just Georgia's just better.
Well,
just
they dictated the game against Michigan. Yeah,
they did. They did. And they deserve
night.
credit for that. But they got dictated last night in every way, shape, and form. But it was interesting listening to Sonny Dykes after the game, and this is why I bring it back to the mentality thing, is he said that he felt some, what was the word? It wasn't anxiety, but he didn't like the feeling in the locker room before the game. He didn't like
they were too hyped up or too...
I don't know exactly if it was too hyped. It's just they weren't in the right mind space. And one of the things that he said they're going to have to go back and rework or reassess and probably, do better if they get this opportunity in the future and just in general do better is how they handled, I guess, that process of getting those guys ready and in the mindset and all of that for that game. And I don't know if it was hyperventilating. I don't know if it was just – I think obviously
you can do that, though, if you've never done something
right.
before.
I mean, being on that stage with the nerves and all that, it's just that they were such a mentally strong team all year long that it's like, what's one more game, right? And I don't know if it was seeing the opponent. I don't know if it was being in SoCal. I don't know what it is that changed it from the way that they were totally mentally – perfect, for the most part against Michigan. But something happened to where they were a little bit overmodulated.
Yep.
And, that's something that was different for them that has not been the case most of the time this year. And I found that very interesting. He didn't get into more specifics than that and didn't say this was a cause thing or this was an assistant coach's thing or this was a me talking before. He didn't get into that specific, but something was off.
Well, one of the things, here's Eric Nefron. I hope I get that right. Nephron. That's what happens when you're facing the executioner.
Yeah, I mean it could be.
And I know that's that's a joke, and I get it. The moment was too big from Mike, and then also Jonathan Ray saying, yeah, that's what he said. There are a lot of you appreciate the honesty of the show. Again, one choice. Thank you very much. Bobby B, BU alum here. I had to stop looking, watching. It was painful, hard to see your brother in arms get taken out like that, regardless of how you may feel about TCU. From Patrick, TCU had no answers on defense or offense. They looked like a young child bullied on the playground that went home shamed. And there was part of that as well. And again, this is not to take away where TCU was up until the thing kicked off. They still have all the memories, the comebacks, the wins, the Big 12 championship game. Yeah, that hurt. But then bouncing back to beat Michigan, which will be kind of the high point of the season to get to the championship game. Craig put up a poll, and we're going to do this later on today. The poll was, and we brought this up, and this is not to be taking – would you rather have gone – well, do you have it, Garrett?
And can I explain this too?
Yeah, go ahead.
This was in light of the beatdown. Okay, as I say at the very bottom, and I didn't include Fiesta Bowl, that's what CFP win indicates, obviously. Yeah. But I wish I would have also put Fiesta Bowl champs / CFP win. But as you know, you can't edit on Twitter, and I'm not signing up for the sub that I guess apparently allows you to. I'm not doing that, so I couldn't edit it. But yeah, here was my entire thinking with this. I think it's TCU. I thought even before, certainly before the blowout, it's TCU. No question about it. After the blowout, I still say it's TCU season that you would rather have. The millions of dollars in exposure and SportsCenter time, the recruiting benefits, all of that.
And they've taken advantage of that.
And they've taken advantage of that. So I do think it's TCU, and I know I've got more Baylor people that follow me than anything else, so I'm not surprised that Baylor leads this poll. But that was so bad that I think it's at least worth asking the question of, would you rather go 12-2? And some people are like leaving details there. Like, this guy said that he'd rather win the Sugar Bowl than show up. And it's like, no, I'd rather be maybe a Big 12 champion and a Sugar Bowl champion and end the season on a winning streak and end the season with confetti falling in New Orleans. And let's also be very clear on something. Got some fan bases talking about the Sugar Bowl like it's the Goodyear Tire Bowl or something. And a bunch of fan bases that haven't won a Sugar Bowl and haven't even sniffed it. So, I understand that it's not playing in the playoff, and again, that's why I think it's TCU, even in light of last night. But the reason why I asked the question was because I remember how happy that ending was for Baylor in New Orleans, and I know how ugly that game was last night, to the point of losing by 58 points on national television, the only game in town, that it just made me wonder of, TCU had an unforgettable historic season. The college football playoff win, I think, puts it over the top, but you didn't win the Big 12. That's okay. You made the playoff.
And there is no Big 12 regular season title.
No.
There is in basketball, though.
Yeah.
There is in basketball for whatever reason, not in football.
Absolutely not in football. But, like some people said, well, I'd rather play for it than not have a chance at it. And so, fine, that's your answer. But that was so historically bad that at least made me wonder of, okay, you won the Fiesta Bowl and therefore a playoff game. But, man, you ended on such a bad note. So that's why I asked that question. I fully expect it to be TCU majority when all is said and done. I don't know when that poll runs out. But
24 hours.
I don't ask that question if it's 45-14. No. I asked that question when it was a 58-point blowout. And so,
all right.
Yeah.
Mike Bean, blowouts happen in every sport, but within the frame of the college football playoff, TCU earned the opportunity to be there. Don't give me that it should have been Alabama versus Georgia or anyone else. There are rules that get you to this game. Now, would it have been a better game? Probably, but it wasn't. You have rules it's like in the NBA championship. Whoever wins the East and whoever wins the West, it's not who the best teams are all the time. It's who are the teams that get hot. That doesn't mean that the others aren't pretty good. That's why you have this crescendo to a championship, no matter if it's in college and or in pro sports. Derek Johnson, I'm going to ask him. We'll ask him. He'll join Craig and me in the next segment. He was named as a large list of the College Football Hall of Fame class of 2023. He will be inducted. We've had Derek on 25 times in the last, 10 or 12 years. Incredible player at Texas. He was an amazing player at high school at Waco High here locally, and also now a part of the College Football Hall of Fame. So he'll join us today. We'll also hear and kind of discuss one of Baylor's new transfers, Jake Roberts, the tight end. He'll join us, and also J.D. Davis, who covers North Texas. His thoughts. Mack Rhodes, Craig's top five. Paul's out today. Craig's off the radar, and then Jake Roberts, and then John McClain, and so much more. Don't forget, every night, weeknight on the CW channel at 10:30, we have what is called Sports Tonight. Emery Winter takes what we do and puts it up at 10:30, and hopefully you get a chance. I've had a lot of people. Television's a powerful thing. Had a lot of people talk to me about it when they've seen me wherever it might be. Again, Garrett and Jacob. Jack just walked in the door a little bit ago. Thank you for your time. We have a long way to go. Lots to get to, and we will read your chat comments as well. Text line 254-339-1122. This is hopefully your college football and talk show in the afternoon and anytime on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on now at Richard Carr, and they are the people that you can count on, not only for a great deal, but also for great customer service as well. And right now they've got more vehicles on the lot than they've had in the last couple of years. It's been a while, supply chain issues and all that comes with that. But now they're feeling pretty good about the selection. Dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now. For qualified buyers, they can get 2.9% financing on 2023 GMC Sierra trucks, or get qualified buyers can get 3.9% financing on GMC Terrain SUVs or the entire lineup of Buick SUVs in stock. They've also got 80 quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, with many under $20,000, affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles ready to drive today, and perhaps you're not in the market for a new or pre-owned vehicle. You're just looking to drive your car a little bit longer. Well, their award-winning service department is standing by to help help keep you on the road. So go to their website, richardcar.com, and see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable work on your vehicle. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Central Texans. Log on to, again, the website, richardcar.com today. Call them now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Derek Johnson, Waco High, University of Texas, many years in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs, spent time as well with the Raiders. And what great news yesterday. He and others announced, along with some coaches, to the class of 2023 College Football Hall of Fame. Waco's very own Derek Johnson joins Craig Smoak and me on 365 Sports. Derek, you earned this. I know there's a buffer period of how long you have to wait and whatever, but what was it like when you were told that you were going to be in? And thank you for your time, by the way, as always.
Oh, man, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. You know what? I was overwhelmed, especially when I got the ball, because the way they do it. As I've just found out, being recently inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, they send the ball to you now, and you open it, nice package or whatnot, and you have the ball with your name on it, and it gives the accomplishment across the panel of the ball. But I tell you what, man, my heart was filled. I was humbled. I felt a lot of joy. I felt a lot of hard work. I've given a lot to football. Football has given me a lot back. And as soon as you get that recognition, that high praise, there's nothing else that goes through your head but just recognizing everyone that helped me to get to this point. And man, it's football is the ultimate team game. So regardless of how well and how I had a lot of people help me along the way.
Derek, you've been able to relive your career quite a bit over these last couple of years, haven't you? All these different honors. Like you said, that the time has separated it, but how many memories have come flooding back to you over the last couple of years, because of the time that has passed and now getting to relive it?
Yeah. It's pros and cons to that. Let me know I'm getting older.
Yeah.
but it's been well appreciated. When you talk about being Texas High School Football Hall of Fame, being in the state of Texas Sports Hall of Fame, being in the state of Missouri Hall of Fame, being at the University of Texas, that Hall of Honor that I got there, and now topping it off with College Football Hall of Fame, man. My heart is overjoyed. I'm humbled. I'm a big spiritual guy, so when it comes to faith and who I put my faith in, it's just a reminder that God has really blessed me along the way.
Derek, I think I know the answer to this, but I never know. How much did any of what might be honored in your name or you in whatever awards later, when you were playing the game, ever actually comes into play?
I've been blessed to have a mindset that always conquers the moment. Always didn't look too far ahead. Now that's probably pros and cons to that, but the way I handle my success and my accolades that I've gotten over the years, that's where I control what you can control at that moment, and I've done a great job at that. And not looking too far ahead. And when you say, that old saying, hard work pays off, later on, it's all paying off. So that's been my journey, and it hasn't all been peaches and cream. But I tell you what, hard work does pay off. And if you can stay healthy, keep your mind right, great things can happen.
Have you had a chance to look through this list of the rest of the class? I know it's a lot of guys, but man alive, Michael Bishop and Reggie Bush and LaMichael James and Tim Tebow and yourself and a whole lot of others. You've been able to scan that at all?
A little bit. A couple people. I'm still kind of reflecting on my place in this small circle of great college football players over the years. And I tell you what, when you talk about Eric Berry, and you talk about Tim Tebow, we talk about guys like that, Dwight Freeney. That's those guys I know personally. So if you could mention my name with those guys, it's pretty cool.
Derek, to be honored like this, it's going to be the red carpet treatment for you. They're going to have this banquet and all of that. Who did you think of first when you got the call?
You know what? I'm a big believer in your family atmosphere, your product of your environment, and my family. When it comes to my mom, coming from Waco, she still lives there. My mom, I tell people now, my mom's probably more popular than me. Like, she taught everybody in Waco. Everybody knows Miss Johnson. So that's the first name I thought about. But my brother, Dwight Johnson, who played at Waco High, I watched him along the way. Go to the university, go to Baylor University, and do his thing there, and went to the league for 4 or 5 years. So that I had someone in the house that I wanted to be like, and showed me the ropes. And of course, even though he was a trailblazer for me, I came behind him and kind of blew up the trail. But I tell you what, my family dynamic not made it easy for me, but very convenient. I knew the route in which I wanted to go.
You were unbelievable at sideline to sideline. We have gone over this. We don't need to discuss it again, but I want to always bring up the first time I ever saw you play against Tyler Lee back in the year when they opened up the new stadium, and then, of course, what you did at Texas. And you're in all these other things that you're in. Can you share again the story about your recruitment? Because Baylor's right there in your backyard. Obviously, during that time, they were going through a lot of problems. But kind of go through the recruitment with you, Texas, and anyone else.
Yeah, Texas was always a leaner for me. So I don't want to, say that they did anything crazy special. But I tell you what, Mack Brown is a heck of a recruiter. I tell you that. Well, my mom still loves Mack Brown to this day. Well, first, whenever I talk to Coach Brown, the first thing he says is, "How's your mom?" That's that tells you the dynamic and the father figure that he was for a lot of us young guys who were in single parent homes. But I had Texas A&M on the list. I had Oklahoma on the list. I had a few others. Baylor was on there for a little bit, but I have to be honest. During that time, my brother played for Baylor. I saw a lot of inconsistent with coaching and coaches was in and out. I mean, from I think Kevin Steele was there the last time when I was coming out, but it was a lot of moving and jiving and I saw too much. So I was like, you know what, I'll get out of Waco. I won't go far, but I'll get out of Waco. But I tell you what, it would have been a hard decision if it was during a time, RG3 and these guys were coming up and putting Baylor up on in the national light. It would have been a harder decision for me, but I made the best decision possible, and it came down to Texas and OU, and I'm proud that I chose the University of Texas, and I'm a Longhorn for life, and I resign here in Austin now.
Derek, speaking of the Longhorns, finished 8-5, lost the bowl game to Washington just a couple of weeks back, but definitely, gearing up that SEC. Entry is getting closer and closer by the day. But I definitely feel like there were some major positives on the defensive side of the ball, just starting there. But in general, what'd you think about what you saw from Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns this season?
Well, we're definitely getting better. We get no doubt about that. Of course, we're spoiled when it comes to Austin and when it comes to the Longhorns because we've had so many great years back in the day, especially when I was here. Winning those 10 games a year, and that's a good habit to have. We kind of got out of that and trying to get back to that moment, build this culture, and I really do believe Sark is the guy. Now, even though you have the right coach, you got to have the right players. That's just how it is. And when I played, we had a few players that were a little bit better than everybody else, so that kind of helps out. It helps you win games, win at least 10 a year. But I'm hopeful. We're getting better. That's what you can ask from the team and the culture of the Longhorns. And even if you're not a Longhorn fan, it's good for everybody in the state of Texas if the Longhorns can deliver. And we're just trying to get back to those glory days. We will, but just not yet.
Seemed like with the play of Jalen Ford in particular, your name was invoked a bit this past season. Did you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you have linebackers stepping up and playing the way he's playing and coming back, for another year, he's a guy that could have left. He's a young guy, but still, for him to have that type of success and to build off of it this coming year, I think is awesome. We got a lot of recruits coming in, some really big time recruits. We killed it this year, so each year you got to do that so you can build this. It's not like the NFL where, well, I guess I got to pause on that. It kind of is like the NFL when you pay players a little bit, but in a sense you still have to build players from ground up because these are 18-year-old kids coming in, and if you get the right ones, you can have something.
Derek, what were your thoughts as you watched, how much of the game you watched? TCU had a magical run, beating Michigan last week. Georgia, of course, has been near the top, winning it last year, and there were some, and Kirby Smart even tried to convince his team that nobody respected him, which was crazy. Your thoughts about watching Georgia just dismantle TCU in a championship game?
Yeah, I'm not a TCU fan at all, obviously, but knowing that most of those guys are from Texas, you kind of say, okay, hopefully they give a good game and let people know, we do have the best athletes here in Texas, but that was not displayed yesterday at all. That was just a big letdown. I'm sure that they could have played better. I don't know how much better. Georgia is a freaking heck of a team, and they're kind of the new Alabama type of deal. So they kicked their butts really bad. I mean, it was early and often, and for their coach to say nobody respects them and trying to play with this chip on the shoulder. I don't know what kind of imaginary chip he's trying to put on there, but whatever he's doing, it's working.
Derek, congratulations, man. We appreciate you. It's well earned that you're a part of the College Football Hall of Fame. You'll be inducted, of course, down the road, but thank you very much for your time and hope you're doing well.
Hey, thank y'all so much.
Derek Johnson, College Football Hall of Famer, Texas, University of Texas Longhorns, played at Waco High, NFL Chiefs and Raiders.
Yeah, it's always cool to talk to Derek and those that, were legends for me watching growing up, both at the high school level and then obviously at the college level and of course the pro level as well. And last time we talked to DJ, we were asking him about the Chiefs run that they've been on and like how he kind of missed that. But I mean, he obviously was a staple for that franchise and he's enjoying it as much as anybody, what Patrick Mahomes and company are doing right now and have been doing for the last couple of years. But yeah, always cool to talk to him and get his insight on, a variety of different topics. And, when you talk about the athletes, that's one thing as Texas will, I'm sure, has known and Oklahoma as well. But I think that's a reminder for them last night. And I don't know what more they can really do than what they're already doing. I mean, they're finishing with top 5, top 10 recruiting classes, but there's just a different kind of recruiting class ranking that the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world have. And so that was a wake-up call for a lot of people, and that was a reminder for a lot of others as well. But it was certainly a little, hey, Oklahoma and Texas, like, yeah, we know you got dudes too, but get ready because this is the cream of the crop over here.
And they're trying to do that, and maybe the timing of the NIL and transfer portal, perfect timing for both of them. One thing about Derek Johnson, he was phenomenal, great guy, incredible businessman, entrepreneur as well, and a tremendous role model. So congratulations to him. We have one note locally. Matt Stepp, who covered Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. I think, Garrett, I threw that out to you at a break. Ray Biles, who last year, 2021, won a state championship as the head coach at Lorena. He has announced his retirement, 31 years at Lorena, was 207, 141, led them to the state title in Class 3A Division I last year. When I moved to Waco in June of 2010, the first day of practice is that August. The first coach I saw at a practice was Ray Biles. Old school, tough as nails the way his teams played, and they finally broke through and won it all. Lorena had won also under John Henry as a running back, but congratulations to a great guy in Ray Biles, and I hope he enjoys his retirement.
Yeah, glad he was able to get a state championship in there, before the end, go ahead and get that win a couple years. What was that, a year ago now? 2021,
yeah.
Yeah, so a year ago now. So, yeah, great that he was able to do that. 31 seasons, 31 years in one place is, that's unbelievable. And what a career he did have. Happy retirement to Ray Biles and Lorena. But I do have a national note as well, a somewhat national note. Also, back to being a little bit regional as well, but another transfer portal quarterback domino has fallen. This one's not a big splash. This is not like, some of the others that were out there. But Zach Calzada, y'all remember that name?
Yep.
Former Texas A&M quarterback, former Auburn quarterback. Obviously, that transfer to Auburn this past season didn't work out great. Well, he has announced his new destination. He is going to Incarnate Word.
Oh.
So Zach Calzada. Now, Garrett just double take.
Bro, that was... My bad.
That was not who you were expecting, was it?
No, not at all.
No, that's not who probably most people would have expected. But, yeah.
He'll always be the guy that started, right, when A&M beat Alabama? Was he the one that – no, that wasn't him.
It was him.
It was him when they shocked Alabama at Kyle Field in 2021. Yep, it was. Came out of that, what do you call it, the tent, whatever they have. because it looked like he had gotten beat up a little bit, came back to help them win that game. So all right. Yeah, that's interesting. A&M to Auburn, right?
Yep.
To Incarnate Word. All right, when we come back, speaking of Incarnate Word, one of their former head coaches, Eric Morris, then he went to Washington State, offensive coordinator, now the head coach at North Texas. J.D. Davis covers the Mean Green, but also Jake Roberts making the decision, a tight end, to transfer to Baylor, his thoughts about that, and also the Eric Morris staff and some college football notes. That's next on 365 Sports. The city of Woodway is having a concert, and they do this, and they had a little bit of a decompression time as far as of concerts during the end of the year. There was a lot of work being done on a lot of what they have as far as their amenities and buildings and also much more. But there's a concert coming up. Oza Motley, Grammy Award-winning Oza Motley, on February the 1st, will kick off the Family and Faith International Film Festival Wednesday, February the 1st in Waco. Join Discover Woodway. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information on the Grammy Award-winning band Oza Motley at the Pavilion Event Center. Again, tickets available. You can go to get tickets by going to discoverwoodway.com. Enjoy live music 7 to 9, February the 1st. Tickets are $30 a piece. Limited seating. Get your tickets now before they're gone. Oza Motley, Wednesday, February the 1st. Go to discoverwoodway.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Closing out this 3 o'clock hour, J.D. Davis covers the heck out of North Texas, the Mean Green, with a new coach and Eric Morris. Of course, Seth Luttrell was there out. We had Phil Bennett, among others. Katie Davis, the linebacker, also joining the show. But there's now a new staff with Eric Morris. And also the news yesterday, Jake Roberts, the tight end from North Texas, transferring to Baylor. And J.D. Davis now joins us at North Texas Eagle on Twitter. J.D., thanks for your time. Let's start with Jake Roberts. Your thoughts about him, the opportunity he has, and what kind of player, and I've heard he's also a heck of a good young man, too.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think you guys at Baylor are going to love the heck out of Jake Roberts. I mean, arguably he was probably Seth Luttrell's biggest recruiting win at his time at North Texas. I mean, beat out schools like Colorado, Memphis, Tulsa. And, you know, Seth was the tight end coach for Rob Gronkowski back in the day, so Jake pretty quickly got the nickname Baby Gronk, and in his 3 short years at North Texas, I mean, I would say he definitely lived up to the nickname. He showed flashes the first 2 years, but this year it really came together. When they went to the Conference USA Media Day, when they selected Jake to go, it's kind of surprising. You know, usually you don't see sophomores chosen for that type of stuff, but you know, he definitely proved this year that there's a reason that he was selected, and not only does he kind of new school tight end, you know, receiver, but he also was one of the best blockers on the team this year as well. So, I mean, I think he's an all-around heck of a tight end. I think y'all are going to really like what you get out of him for sure.
JD, how would you describe the portal and how that's affecting good, bad, or otherwise North Texas at the moment, and Eric Morris as he tries to get this thing off the ground?
The portal itself, I like to describe it as the wild, wild west. It's crazy. As far as North Texas goes, I mean, really, you know, I felt like Eric kind of had a bad hand, you know, the timing of coming in. But, you know, his top priority right off the bat was, you know, keeping the team together, because, you know, North Texas, the cupboard wasn't empty. The team wasn't broken. But, you know, right when he got on campus, he had to recruit his own players. You know, and so far, you know, we only had a few deflections. So I feel like he's done a great job of keeping the team together as of now. I think as far as North Texas adding people through the portal, we've got some commits so far. They're kind of, I guess they're in stealth mode right now. I think they'll get it announced closer to the time school starts next Monday. We should hear some of those names start leaking out. But I think, you know, Coach Morris was pretty upfront, you know, that I guess when he got to UIW, maybe, you know, made some quick moves and stuff. I felt like this time he's going to take it. He said he's, you know, want to take it a little slower. So I don't see a ton of additions through the portal right off the bat. Maybe after spring, you know, filling some holes. But I think, you know, 3 or 4 portal ads, maybe all we see from North Texas, you know, in this early cycle.
JD, obviously he's not been the head coach for very long, but he is now. And Greg was discussing the portal. Let's discuss his staff. How has he pieced that together? What is not filled, if anything?
Yeah, you know, he was up front right from the first press conference. He was, you know, based around recruiting with Texas high school football ties. And y'all saw with Mack Rhodes at Baylor, you know, Texas high school football connections are second to none when recruiting the state of Texas. And as of right now, with what's been announced, I've got over 10-plus people on the staff that's on field and off field that have Texas high school football ties, whether coaching or playing. And he's got 3 former Texas high school football head coaches on the staff as well. Drew Sabota, Chris Gilbert, Josh Kirkland, all had, you know, multiple stops as Texas high school football coaches. And just announced another former Texas high school football player, a name that y'all will probably remember, Jason Smith, the offensive tackle. He was an intern last year, but has now been upgraded to an offensive analyst. So that's another one to add on the staff with, Texas high school football ties.
Jason Smith, the former second overall pick in the draft by the Rams from Baylor. Jason Smith?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Yep.
He interned last year. Randy Clements, I think, was the connection that kind of brought him in, and then, did his time last year as an intern, and like I said, now has been upgraded to an offensive analyst.
JD, again, Davis covers North Texas, GoMeanGreen.com, with us on 365 Sports. Garrett, you have a question for him on Gilbert?
Yeah, what does Chris Gilbert bring to this team? I know his ties to the Metroplex and obviously Coach O as well. What do they do as far as recruiting? And that was an area that was really missed out by the previous staff. And what can it mean to kind of get into that hotbed that is the Metroplex?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw the state finals this year that Texas high school football is running through that South Dallas area right now. And I think Chris Gilbert and Coach O are two guys, Justin Owens, but better known as Coach O. I think those two guys probably have more connections and more ties in that area than anywhere. And North Texas, I would say back in the day, we had a little more kind of slipped off, with the SMU doing the Dallas thing. They'd kind of have tapped into that South Dallas Metroplex area. So hopefully, Chris Gilbert and Coach O, with all the connections they've got, are going to be able to help this staff, get in there and make some headway. I know they're battling for some kids right now in South Dallas that, as the National Signing Day approaches. So hopefully those two guys can get you in some doors and get you the conversations with maybe some kids you weren't able to the past few years.
What was the name when we were in school, and JD, I was in school many decades prior to before you even understood what school was, but what was the name of that table that we had to learn, like iron? What was the name of that? What was the name of that?
Periodic table.
Periodic table. Is that almost like trying to figure out who's in what conference right now in college football with all the shift coming up this next summer?
Absolutely. I was on the phone earlier with the guy that runs the Go Mean Green website, and the conference schedule came out, and I was like, there was some of these teams I didn't even know they were in Conference USA. So yeah, it's hard to keep up with that for sure. I didn't, like I said, Jacksonville State, I think, was one of the ones I was like, I had no clue that we're in Conference USA moving forward. So I think it's going to definitely take some getting used to figuring out who's where as we move into the next season.
Well, and then the American Conference, right? They're losing people but gaining people, and that includes North Texas.
Absolutely. And as a guy that covers North Texas, I'm excited to cover us moving into that. We've seen with Tulane this year, Memphis, what they've done. They're losing some talented programs, but I think at the same time, there's some very talented programs staying, and I'm excited to see what North Texas can do competing in that. I mean, North Texas made the conference championship this year in the Conference USA, but I think we all can agree that the American is definitely a step up. So I think that Coach Morris and the staff got their work cut out, upgrading the roster. Like I said, I don't think it's nowhere near a total rebuild, but there'll definitely need to be some changes and some upgrades in some areas to be able to make the jump to the next conference. Because like I said, we've seen with Tulane this year, I mean, they went in and beat a very talented, USC team. So definitely going to have to take a step up for sure.
One question I have for you on North Texas. One of our favorite people of all time was their defensive coordinator in Phil Bennett. And obviously there's Jim Gush and many others that were there. And you mentioned Jason Smith, the former Baylor offensive lineman. How often did you get to interact with Phil Bennett, and what were those interactions? How were those?
To be honest, I never did. That's one of the interviews that I always wanted to have. One of my friends got to interview him while we were there, and I told him that Phil Bennett's the guy that I could sit there and just listen and talk for hours about, whatever it was. Every time he was on y'all's show before he came to North Texas, I made sure to tune in if I wasn't already listening. But Phil Bennett did great things at North Texas. He came in and took a defense that was one of the worst defenses in the country and upgraded them in every facet. And but yeah, that's one interview that I always said I wish I could have got while he was here, but it just never worked out. But yeah, I love Phil Bennett. Like I said, I think he and his staff did a great job turning that defense around while he was there.
I'll tell you what we're going to do, though, because he still has so much knowledge, even though the staff changes. I'm going to set that up for you, and I'm going to set that up for you to get Phil Bennett, okay?
That is awesome. I appreciate it.
No, I really will. Thank you, JD, again, on Jake Roberts transferring to Baylor. Hell of a story behind the scenes about, Seth Littrell. Coach Rob Gronkowski called him Big Gronk, and also North Texas headed the American Conference. Baby Gronk. North Texas headed to the American Conference, and also coming off the year that they had. JD, thanks for your time. Again, JD Davis, who covers North Texas with us, in perfect timing with Jake Roberts, the tight end transfer, who will join us today just after 5 o'clock. When we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, segment or 2 or 3, and eventually one of those will be Mack Rhodes at 4:20. Craig's off the radar as well. A couple of nuggets today as well. The Big 12 men's basketball scheduled tonight as what a conference. Who was it? Adam Batchelor sent me a note. I think it was a graphic that at one point, maybe last week at this time, the top 10 strongest records and or schedules, the top 10 were everybody Big 12. And now they're playing each other, and it's, of course, a bloodbath in certain ways. Some teams off to a better start than others. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. They have a new football coach at Robinson High School. Chris Lancaster used to be at Baylor and, of course, has been at Academy High School. And they have a great place, a great business, Stonewood Dental, with my good friend Dr. Steve Childress. He and other dentists, those who, of course, are the hygienists, and those who just help you make sure you get your appointment set up, help you with whatever you need, they are phenomenal. I don't know of any business I could ever remember dealing with where you were always helped and reminded. And someone like me with my attention deficit, they were constantly, the last time I had an appointment, reminding me, email, text message, even that day, that morning, whenever it was. And of course, with Dr. Childress and what he's helped me do with my dental work, that has really it's taken away some of the stress, because I knew I was lagging behind on keeping up with my dental work. And a lot of that now, he gave me kind of an itinerary, kind of a list of things to do. And I've gotten through some of them with still many more to get to before it's said and done. He is absolutely amazing, as elite as you could possibly be. It's Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Paul out today, back tomorrow. I'm going to get to the chat room also from Steve, an email he sent me last night. This was as the game was getting out of hand. And by the way, Smokey, this is the type of game that will happen in the second round of a 12-team playoff. Yep, give 4 teams a bye. This is what will happen. We don't know that, but there's a good chance there's going to be blowouts. But yet again, as we've said before, when there were 4, there have been blowouts more often than not leading up until this year with the 2 classic semifinal games.
Yeah, I think there's maybe a couple of teams, I don't know, maybe on any given night, a handful of teams that could have at least kept that more respectable than TCU did. Maybe TCU on another night, although I find that doubtful after watching what we watched. I think that was probably going to be similar results regardless of whenever you played that game. But I don't know. I saw it from a couple of different angles as far as the expanded playoff. I mean, on the one hand, I think you can make a great argument for why the BCS should come back, just as far as like having the top 2 and just keeping it as far as the top 2 goes. But I don't know. I think the last night was just a sign that the expanded playoff is probably the better idea. I mean, in terms of just having some more even-handed matchups, you'll get those in the first round. And in the second round, yeah, it's probably going to get dicey when a Georgia with extra rest has to take on whoever won the Tennessee-Texas Tech game or whatever. Yeah, but what scenario is Georgia not whooping somebody and other than playing Alabama or other than playing – what flavor of the month team that you want to put up there.
Or Ohio State.
So, so Ohio State, Alabama. So, basically the same schools we talk about over and over and over again. Outside of those schools, like would Michigan have played them better? Maybe, probably. I have no idea on that front, but, I don't think that last night convinced me the 4-team playoff is the way to go. I think it left me thinking that, hey, TCU, that's great. They got a playoff win in the future. There will be more teams that have that opportunity to do so. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if you have 2 or 4 or 8 or 12 or whatever. The Georgias of the world are going to rise to the top and win this bad boy more often than they aren't. And, there's probably, given the attrition that's going to be needed at this next level, like TCU's, like Georgia's third stringers were more talented than some of TCU's starters. I mean, ultimately.
Well, and based on the recruiting rankings, again, that isn't always
that's what they're supposed to be. But
in their case.
Right, they're supposed to be. So, like, how's a team going to fare playing 3 weeks into a playoff against the Georgia team? Yeah. I mean, who's going to be able to deal with that depth-wise? Close to nobody, except for, again, the same schools that we were just mentioning. So, I don't know how much that really shakes my belief in the expanded playoff watching last night. It does tell me, though, that, you could have done things differently, and maybe there would have been a different result. But ultimately, I think the Dogs and of course Ohio State fans are going to have their reasons for believing the way they believe because they had them on the ropes. I mean, they had that very team that we watched dominate last night, as close as you can be to not even being in that game. So Ohio State, Alabama, maybe your OUs and your Texases, in the future with the SEC backing behind them are on that level as well. But I don't know how many others are, quite frankly. And so for the TCUs and teams like that, it's going to be a very interesting next step in the process. The good news is that they will have more accessibility. It's just, can they ever stack enough playoff wins and other titles to be able to reel in the kind of depth that you're seeing at only a select few places. And I don't know. Does this drive more parity, or does it create the same thing that we've seen, which is basically the same schools winning it year after year after year? I'm not sure yet, but I'm certainly not anti-expansion after last night.
If I remember, LSU smacked Clemson. It wasn't 65-7. It was 42-25. Alabama's had theirs when they've rolled to a game or two. We'll figure it out. Let's see what happens. And maybe the fact that there's expansion, maybe some of those that otherwise won't compete will get better. And who knows with NIL and transfer portal. But it will be a surprise if the next 3 to 5 years the national champions aren't Alabama or Georgia. Maybe, again, an LSU, an upcoming Florida State, Ohio State, whoever it might be, and then everyone else along the way. The 2019 LSU, again, was on another level. Joe Burrow and LSU got red hot. Dave Aranda, defensive coordinator on that team. Phil Venzer, when will we see those 4-star players start transferring to G5 schools? Or some of those 4-star players transfer to other Power 5 schools, which is what we've seen. Ron Lowney, the Big 12 needs to promote their basketball teams instead. Okay, Ron.
Well, they have a better shot at winning the title in that, as they've played for it a bunch of times here recently and won it on a couple of occasions here, most recently with Baylor and Kansas. But yeah, I mean, that's where they do have an advantage if there is an advantage. But on the football side of things, like that gulf that you feel like is always sort of been there and is only grown probably through the OU, Texas, USC, UCLA moves, and then all the other rumored possibilities that came after that. There is a gulf, but I think we all knew that. I don't know. Does last night more shake your faith in there being more TCUs, or does it make you think like, no, the more games and therefore having some more even matchups than Georgia TCU in the final is going to be better? I think it probably depends on who you ask. I'm a little bit in the middle because I don't know that a TCU in the modern era moving forward is ever going to find themselves in the championship game again. Having to win like 3 games to get there, and maybe only 2 if you get a bye. I guess if that's the way that it's set up, but I don't know. So is it better or worse in that regard? I'm not sure.
I know that I don't mind dynasties. I've always kind of almost appreciated them, and Georgia's now won a couple in a row. Last time it was 10 years ago with Alabama. But really, everyone acts like dynasties or a group of 3 to 5 teams running college football is some kind of a new thing. I think it also goes with the fact that maybe the gap is getting bigger, which we've heard. But in the 60s, it was pretty much the same. You had the Texas and South Carolina and Southern Cal. You had Notre Dame. In the 70s, you had USC and Notre Dame and Alabama and again, Oklahoma. In the 80s, you had Penn State. You had a couple win national titles. Then the Miami run started. In the 90s, you had Florida State. You had Nebraska. They made their run. And then, of course, the USC, Ohio State, Florida, LSU run. There's always been kind of a gap. It's not. The one thing about college football is there usually are the same teams that regurgitate, in a way, the national titles. Obviously, the SEC's been incredibly successful, really, since they won their first title back, Florida in 2006 that won the national title. But it doesn't mean they didn't have teams in the past that weren't dominant. Most of the time, it was Alabama, and earlier than that, LSU a part of that conversation. I get this feeling that everyone thinks that college football's always had 15 or 20 teams that compete for the national title, and it's actually been even less than in maybe college basketball. College basketball, Cinderella can live. In college football, it's always been teams that cycle, that run the league or run the sport for maybe 8 to 10 years at a time.
Yeah, it has been. But you've seen different teams pop up and get close enough to be able to taste it and smell it, feeling like they've got, just a little bit more to go to be able to get there. And I don't know that, like a TCU, for example, they can go beat a Michigan and then therefore be in this title game. Before in the BCS, hey, finish top 2. And there was certainly controversy with that. But now you're going to be asking a lot more of every team to be able to make it to the national championship
they don't have
game.
to just win Michigan. No, they have to win Michigan,
you have to beat
Michigan. Yeah.
After you beat Tennessee and then go beat Georgia Tech and then go play Alabama in the national title game.
Yep.
After you've done your whole regular season spiel and the conference title game and all of that, like you're asking TCU to basically go do what they did, and we know how close they were to not having done that. We know how close they were to having like 3 or 4 losses in the regular season. Texas Tech was certainly possible. Baylor was certainly possible. There's a couple of others. But they to their credit, got unscathed. But, yeah, you're asking them to basically do what they did all the way up until last night, but then win probably a couple more games or at least one more game against a team in the same vicinity as a Michigan, do that, and then go and finally play Georgia. And I just don't know, depth-wise, Georgia's got better ranked players on their third string than most teams have on their entire roster. They're built for being able to take care of business like that, and Alabama's built that way. Is anybody going to be able to be built enough to even challenge that? Probably not, but then again, to your point, like, is that any different really than what we've seen? So maybe last night in TCU's like the last gasp of air for the dreamers out there that somebody who's not a quote-unquote blue blood can make it, but also that might have been the door shutting on that ever happening again in some ways, because the mountain that the teams like that are going to have to climb in comparison to the teams who are actually built and suited up to do that is, it's reason to ask the question.
The men's basketball tournament ends up usually with blue bloods who win it and get to the Final Four, but it's the first weekend when Cinderella lives and puts on the slipper that really has created how dramatic that particular tournament is, because in the end, usually the teams you think will win it do, with an occasional maybe bump in the road or surprise along the way. We have Mack Rhodes coming up next.
Yeah, and in TCU, and to that point, now all of a sudden you will have, let's say, Oregon and Tennessee, whatever, they win their first-round playoff games as opposed to whatever bowl they would be in otherwise, and they get the opportunity. That's why I asked beforehand, would you rather have the opportunity or just end on a high note? And that's kind of where that question on Twitter came from. But, yeah, you're going to be able to celebrate a first-round and maybe a second-round playoff win. You probably won't be able to celebrate a national title very often, but those playoff wins do stack up kind of like bowl championships do, and that is something that you can continue building your resume, but to reach the actual mountaintop, that's still for a select few.
When we come back, Baylor publicly announced an NIL advisory board. We'll have Mack Rhodes, Baylor's director of athletics, on this. His thoughts about 65-7, his thoughts about many things as well, and including, I asked him last time he was on the air on Friday about DeMar Hamlin. Baylor looking at the possibility of even more opportunities to maybe make sure and look at and test the athletes' hearts. And they've had Isaiah Austin and King McClure, who have gone through some heart issues and health scares along the way. Mack Rhodes, Baylor's director of athletics, is next. Marco's Pizza. Go online, marcos.com. 30% off on all menu items, all menu price pizza items, by using the code GREAT30. Order now. You could also get the app, and when you do, you have an opportunity to get a discount on your first order when you order, or at least download the app and then order your first menu item at Marco's Pizza. Pepperoni's favorite pizza, the large pepperoni magnifico. Order online, $9.99. Use the code word of PEPBAG. Call them up. Go by and pick it up. They will deliver it to you, of course, if that's what you want. If you have a Marco's Pizza location around you, you can go to marcos.com, or again, use the app or call them. Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area, 5 locations, Belmead, Chita Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and Robinson. Bob Mock, the owner. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out, end the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. And they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch, state-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
We're now joined by Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes. Again, Paul out till tomorrow. Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Mack Rhodes joins us on 365 Sports. So what were you thinking as you watched TCU and Georgia and obviously men among boys with what Georgia did?
Yeah, probably a lot of different things. You know, one, Georgia's pretty darn good. I mean, physically, you know, I just felt like they dominated, you know, both sides of the ball. But, you know, I've been part of that situation where, you know, you're on that end, that same end that TCU was on. And so it's not a lot of fun and really felt for them. You know, I'm a big fan. I think I've mentioned this before of Coach Dykes, and our relationship goes back, you know, probably at least a decade, you know, that I've known him, and I've got great respect for him and their athletic director, Jeremiah Donati, and, you know a lot of the people within the athletic department, and great people. So felt for them, just a tough night. And, you know, I think it, you know, certainly wasn't any one thing, you know. I think, you know, the physicality piece, but, you know, sometimes it's just not your night. And it certainly was Georgia's, and it's probably, you know, the best game Georgia's played, you know, all year long and maybe in the last 2 years. So tough night,
and for TCU and the Big 12, but I think a great step forward and in terms of breaking through the CFP, getting through the semifinals, and getting the team into the championship.
Mack, you guys, when I've brought this up, you've almost not been taken aback by it, but there is always this, like, what's Baylor doing with NIL? And you've tried to do this methodically, and you've tried to do it a certain way. And then yesterday, the announcement that you're actually, as an athletics department, mentioning, announcing, and discussing NIL Advisory Council. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think, one, there wasn't a whole lot that we could really talk about and say until, recent changes, obviously, within the NCAA. And so, we were able to now be, more outspoken, promote, support. And those changes just happened, recently. I think the other thing for us, is we're in a little bit of a unique position, meaning that, we're trying to raise money, not just for name, image, and likeness, but, right now the primary has been, both the pavilion and the football development center. And, we're at this space and time where, people are having to donate, and it impacts, where they're going to sit in the where their seats are going to be located, where they're going to sit in the pavilion. And so a lot of, competing interests. And, we really felt like that, certainly 12 months ago, 6 months ago, we needed to make, those two capital projects a priority. And, the reality is, I've had some donors ask me personally, Mack, well, do you want me giving the money to the two facilities, or do you want me giving it to name, image, and likeness? And so that's been, something, a dynamic that maybe not everybody in the country is dealing with. And then, again, doing it our way, making sure that, our collective, so to speak, GXG, that it's in line with our Christian values and the way we do things. I've talked about we're not going to do it like everybody else. And, I think, through Startup Waco and starting this athletics arm, GXG, this relationship, this partnership with the community, with the Waco community, I think is really, really special. And I think it's a great way to go for everybody involved. So those are a lot of the different reasons. We've always, I think, underneath the water, have been churning and have been working on name, image, and likeness from the very beginning. When it first, came into effect on July 1, 2021. In fact, I think we were one of the leaders in the country in terms of all of the infrastructure, education, disclosure, all of those things, making sure that we were prepared so that our student athletes could be successful in the space.
Mack, any update on either of those facilities that you mentioned, either the basketball arena or the football ops building? I know that there's been, as far as the basketball goes, some updates from time to time put out on social media, but anything of note or anything's changed in regard to those projects?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking, Craig. Everything, I think no news is good news. I think everything is on schedule, ready to go. One of the architects sent me a text over the weekend saying the first truss is going up. And so that's big news when we think about the pavilion, but still on schedule. Still scheduled to play, in January 1 of 2024. So in 11 and a half months, think about that we'll be playing in that new facility. And then right now, construction ongoing with the development center and the indoor practice. They'll be connected to one another. And, right now our CM is working on the front side, the entry side of the indoor, which would be the south side. beginning to tear that down so that, again, part of that overall project is extending the indoor by 20 yards so that it moves from an 80-yard field to a 100-yard field. So both are proceeding very well, and we continue to be excited about both those projects.
I have to admit, when it comes to the pavilion, that when you announced like the date that it would open, that seems so far away, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's 1 year away. I can only imagine how you all must be feeling to know, like, oh, that's actually right around the corner. It's 2023 now.
Yeah, no, I look at pictures and then I look at the calendar. I look at pictures and I look at the calendar, right? I try to measure in my own way, just kind of progress. And, okay, we're moving at this clip, then, yeah, it looks good. I think we can have this thing done by January 24. But we're excited, And, I think about some of the crowds, like, the Kansas State crowd, in the Farrell Center, and you think about putting that crowd in the pavilion, my goodness. That place is loud. It's sold out. It's really, really difficult to play in, and so I think we're all excited about that move into the pavilion.
Yeah, I was there Saturday night, and it was lit, and it was an incredible atmosphere with Jerome Tang's return, emotional, and then of course an incredible basketball game that ended with the K-State win in overtime. How emotional was that for you watching? This is your program. This is your team. It's under your umbrella, and you see Baylor's won some of those, and then, of course, with the emotions of Jerome Tang, how was that a roller coaster for you?
I try not to get on that roller coaster. Now, that's easier said than done, but I was intentional about not saying anything to Jerome prior to the game, and wanted to just handle that and deal with that, afterwards. And I was, we had a moment or two to be able to hug one another and to be able to just talk a little bit, and for me to, tell him proud of him, love him, and all of those things. And, Jerome and I had a great relationship when he was here, and, I'm happy for him. And, at the same time, that was a really tough night. And, it's been a tough start, obviously, to the Big 12 season. Starting off 0-3, but I think this is where you work harder, you work smarter. This is when you double down, and as Scott and I were talking, there's still so much of the season left to play, and I wouldn't want to be in the foxhole with anybody else other than Scott Drew. This is a really talented team, and there's no doubt in my mind it will find its way under his leadership, and toward the end we'll be right in the middle of it. So just makes the journey maybe a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging, but I believe that we're up for the challenge.
Mack, the story last week about DeMar Hamlin and, of course, released from the hospital on Monday. The Bills made that announcement. But you and I and Craig and Paul had this discussion about where you are. You mentioned Kenny Boyd as elite as anyone can be in that specific position in an athletic department or anywhere, even if he was a part of a professional franchise. We had Dr. Neelis Goswami on. Dr. Goswami mentioned to me a couple of different times that he and Baylor Scott and White Hillcrest are working with Baylor to even more fine-tune testing. And you've had at Baylor, you weren't there, Isaiah Austin, King McClure. There have been cases where players have still been able to play at Baylor and have success. Is that something you guys are always tweaking?
Yeah, Jared Butler, I don't know if you mentioned initially.
I did, yeah.
But it is, one, we're grateful for the partnership we have with Baylor Scott and White, and certainly Dr. Goswami. But, I think, and I don't want to, misrepresent, but I do think we're in this constant, always trying to improve, looking at our process. Now it's not every day, but it's, certain moments and times throughout the year. And I think, we've continued to do that with consistency, constantly. And so, yes, with Dr. Goswami right now, looking at some of the ways we screen, and are there, more things we can do, different ways we can handle, heart screen, et cetera. So, and we'll continue to evolve. We're always going to have to continue to evolve in this area. If we want to do right by our people. We certainly care about and love our staff and our student athletes. And, we've got a duty to provide the responsibility to provide the best care that we can possibly do that. And, that we possibly can. And we can't do it alone. It takes a lot of people within the Waco community, and it takes people that care, like Dr. Goswami, our other doctors. It takes a lot of people, and so we're blessed that we've got some really, really good people involved.
I want to go back to TCU in Georgia. There was discussion. Kirk Herbstreit mentioned this at the end of the broadcast when it got to be just completely one-sided, which it almost basically did in the second quarter. Does that in any way, all the publicity of TCU being a part of the Big 12, is there still any, or do you have any concern that there are the haves and the have-nots because of how last night went?
Yeah, that I heard a little bit of that commentary, and I think that's what we're right in the middle of when you think about college athletics. Smoak, to be really honest with you, we're in this time and place where because of deregulation with some of the rules, certainly name, image, and likeness, TV contracts, right? Are we setting this up right where those with the most money are gonna be the ones that are competing for championships every year? And I think we're in that dilemma right now, trying to figure that out. And certainly at Baylor, we don't play in 110,000 seat stadium. And when you think about our alumni base and our enrollment over the years, we don't have the largest alumni base in the country as compared to many of the other schools we compete in. And so we've got to be really smart. We've got to probably do more with what we have. We've got to stick to our process and keep aligned with our Christian values, never compromise. And there are days where I sit and I go, wow, that's a pretty tall task in a big mountain to climb, but we're climbing it, and we keep ascending. And I think Baylor, and I can speak for only Baylor, we're going to find a way to continue to be nationally relevant amongst all of this, I call chaos. And the name, image, and likeness piece is important. What's interesting, it may be completely different in 2 years, right? We could get to a point, place, and time where now all of a sudden name, image, and likeness is within the athletic departments, and it's part of our fundraising arm. It's part of the Bear Foundation. But we're going to continue to evolve and find ways. And I'm thankful again for Startup Waco, for John Passavant and his team. And it's a great group of people. It's a diverse group. It's a group of folks that really connect well with our student athletes. And then the advisory council, those are 6 individuals that have been with us organically, that have been very interested in name, image, and likeness, and have, quite frankly, skin in the game. They not only trying to help put this together, but they're also contributing to it as well. So when you look at, GXG and their staff, and our advisory council, which, I think is now that we're, I'm going to say, quote unquote, official, that will continue to potentially grow. I think we've got a great program and a great plan in place, and we're going to do it the right way. We're gonna make sure that we're not using it to induce student athletes to come here, and we're going to make sure that we've got it in place where our student athletes absolutely understand how to grow their name, image, and likeness, how important it is, and find ways for them to connect with people in our community.
So, in other words, this advisory council, can they take donor money and place it into athletes' NIL? I just want to make sure what's changed other than the fact you now can promote it.
Yeah, it really hasn't changed, right? GXG is they're really the boots on the ground, the day-to-day team that engages directly with our student athletes. Okay, and they are the group that's responsible for executing, name, image, and likeness partnerships between the student athletes and our local businesses. The advisory council works with them in terms of raising money. And so, if you're interested in donating toward name, image, and likeness to help our student athletes, you're not doing that through necessarily the advisory council. You're obviously not doing that through Baylor Athletics or to Baylor Athletics. You're doing that, to GXG directly, and because GXG is a 501c3, right? It's tax deductible. And, the advisory council, those members have donated to GXG, and they're also out there asking, other Baylor supporters to donate to GXG. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And one final thing on Dre Edwards, who had her emotional plea last week, and then, of course, the Kentucky coach responded. Have you picked up the phone or have any conversation with Kentucky's athletic department? How does that work if you get to a point where it's a stalemate?
Yeah, I know Mitch really well at Kentucky, and I've got great respect for him. And, Mitch and I talked about this probably a couple different times, weeks ago, prior to any of this becoming public. I shared my thoughts. He shared his thoughts. Ultimately, he's supporting the decision of his head coach, just like I would support Nikki's decision. So, but we've had conversation, and I think, for Dre, for our basketball program and for us, right? Dre's got to continue to do all the things that she's doing right now. Again, knocking it out of the park academically. She's been a great teammate. She's at practice. She's at times, part of the scout team, continuing to grow and flourish in all different ways, beyond just basketball, continue to improve her basketball skills. And, if she doesn't have an opportunity to play this year, let's make sure that she's ready in all of those ways, both on and off the court for next year.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. Mack Rhodes, Baylor's Director of Athletics. And TJ, by the way, asked about, is there a date for the 2023 Big 12 schedule? It was about a month ago when Mack was on with us. We asked him that question after weeks of just not asking because it just wasn't going to happen. And he made it clear that it would maybe be until like late January, early February, if I remember correctly, because there is that legitimate possibility that 2023 may be the only year with all 14 teams in it. It may not include 2024, and so that's what delayed the release of the schedule they wanted to do sometime back, I think even in November or December. You remember that conversation? When we come back, Craig Smoak's off the radar. Just after 5, we'll hear from the newest member of the Baylor football team in Jake Roberts from North Texas, the tight end. Much more to get to. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, brand new location, new facility, more than twice the size of the one that they were in forever, that grew, expanded, back when they opened the company in 1943. New inventory, higher quantities of inventory in a much more organized fashion because, my goodness, they have space, more space than ever before. Standard long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat. Now carrying several shorter, more convenient lengths of material, already cut, which will also save time for anyone who doesn't need or can't haul the longer lengths of product. New 25,000 square foot showroom or 2,500 square foot showroom with over 1,000 new products in stock, all new welding supplies, hardware, do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you're a professional contractor or a weekend warrior. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, the location may have changed, but their values have not. Still believe in the value of a handshake, believe in the value of customer service and relationships. Like even Coach Aranda says, person over player, that's the way they feel at Pioneer Steel and Pipe with their brand new location just east of I-35 in the southern part of Waco in the southeast loop 340, pioneerboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone and ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Just a short segment here on Tuesdays and Thursdays to take a look at a little bit of a grab bag of news and notes that aren't always college football related, but we'll include some college football from time to time, and that includes to start things off with, as we do have the ratings from last night's college football national championship game. Georgia, of course, the historic beatdown of TCU, the 58-point win that basically most people probably turned off, halftime? Saw a lot of people making moves. Third quarter, certainly, and by the fourth quarter, I mean, how many folks were still watching at that point? Well, we got a little bit of a breakdown of that, but what we can tell you is that this was the lowest watched national championship game in over 20 years. You have to go back to the late stages of the BCS, or go back to the late 90s in the BCS, to find, the comparison here. But 17.2 million, it looks like, the number for last night's Georgia TCU game. Lowest since 1998, I believe, is where we're at right now with that number. Over the three playoff games as a whole, the playoff averaged 20.6 million viewers, so great numbers. I think it was 20+ million for both the semi. Gained a little bit all the way up to 22+ million by about 30 minutes into the game. So you're looking at, Georgia with an early lead, and the TCU obviously scored relatively early as well. You had a 10-7 ball game. An hour into it, you were at 20.79 million, so still had gained a few 100,000 people. But from 9 to 9:15, a drop-off of 4.5 million people just in that 15-minute span from 9 to 9:15 Eastern time. They went from 20.8 million viewers. 15 minutes later, it was 16.2. So off a cliff there, and then it kept dropping. An hour after that, 14.95, and as the 10 o'clock hour went on, every 15-minute intervals, it went from nearly 15 million, which 14.95. 15 minutes later, it was 13.3. 15 minutes later, it was 11.8, and by the end of it, the game had started off at 20.3 million people and had peaked at around 22.1 million 45 minutes into it. Well, 3 hours later, half of that audience, 10.3 million by the end of that game. So from 20.3 to 10.3 by the end of it. Again, lowest watched national championship game since the BCS era started up in 1998.
Yeah, there was a part of me as it wasn't maybe even late second quarter, although it was over. There was a part of me that wondered, man, can you imagine how many people are turning off the TV?
I thought about it.
Yeah, and for a lot of reasons. Now, if you turn it off at 10 to 7, it means you have to go to sleep. You have to get up early, whatever. It still would be hard for me to do that. But I started wondering about how this would affect the overall number, and obviously it did.
We were doing our watch party last night, and about halftime, it was completely over, and I had the guys throw on hockey just to keep me to keep me entertained.
Yeah. And
it was absolutely brutal. I could see how so many people checked out.
Oh, yeah. I was texting with some folks, and they're like, I've already flipped the channel. It was like the late second quarter going into halftime. I'm like, oh, just for halftime? I'm like, no, I'm done. Like, I don't think this is going to be any more entertaining than it already has been. And you know what? It wasn't. It got absolutely worse throughout the rest of that game.
I wonder how many kept watching because they we mentioned this with Sean Merriman. People love car wrecks.
Yeah, but that wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, but people how, are they going to get to 50? Are they going to get to 60? My God, they could have gotten to whatever they wanted.
I think the people who were really intrigued in that and tuned in were people like Emery. We were sitting here watching. He had a bet on it, and he bet the over. And as the game's slowly progressing, we're like, man, this is not going to happen. It's not in Georgia keeps scoring. And then it got interesting to where he thought he had a chance. So that kept him a little in tune in the game as well.
Yeah, I think of that $10+ million that was still left over, that was definitely bettors.
Oh, yeah.
The majority of that was definitely bettors. Because, I think most casual fans, even your hardcore fans, I guess that you would describe, some as being more of that inclination. By halftime, this thing was well over, and the second half was just window dressing. I mean, like we said earlier, the fourth quarter was like 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, and there's Stetson Bennett's walking off the field, and then it's the defensive players are walking off the field, and they're doing a whole thing the entire fourth quarter, basically. And then, this backups come in, and they're scoring touchdowns. It's just that was the fourth quarter, and I can understand why that dropped off the way that it did. So that's not a surprise. With $17.2 million for the 65-7 Georgia win over TCU in the national championship game, and big drop off from the the start to the end there. So I wanted to follow up with that, and that's going to be interesting to see where that falls in line. I think most of the ratings are out now as far as bowl games, but I haven't seen an actual list put together of the most watched games, regular season, bowl games, national championship. Michigan, Ohio State's way up there. The semifinals are way up there as well, obviously. But need to see all the final numbers, and I'll maybe do that for Thursday, is to have the top 10 most watched games all year long. But there you have that. Now as the college football season wraps up, it's on to these all-star games and, of course, all the NFL preparation and a lot of announcements in that regard. Jalen Carter, Georgia Bulldogs defensive lineman, no surprise whatsoever that he has elected to forego his senior year, announcing his intentions on social media to enter the NFL draft. He had been dealing with an ankle, had a knee injury that was bothering him as well, but unanimous All-American, All-SEC obviously as well, and a finalist for the Lombardi Award. He is the number 1 rated player in the 2023 NFL draft. So that's significant that he has made it official, but not surprising, kind of like last night's rating. Not surprising that this was a move made by Jalen Carter, who is now officially beginning his NFL preparations. Meanwhile, Ohio State left.
I would think Jalen Carter was the best player in college football, but because he missed so many games, I couldn't vote him in my top 3. He just missed too many games. But there was a very much I wanted to do that, even though he missed, but he can't. But imagine where he would have been had he been able to play the entire year.
Yeah, I mean, they are loaded, and he is super talented. So, Georgia will just continue to reap rewards of the recruiting that they've done and probably have the number 1 overall pick here in the upcoming draft. Ohio State offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr., another guy who's looked at as going pretty early in the draft. He is officially declared as well, sending out a message on social media thanking Buckeye Nation. He's a starter at left tackle for Ohio State, began his career at the guard spot. He's an Ohio guy. He's from Cincinnati, second team All Big Ten, semifinalist for the Lombardi Award. And as of right now, according to where you look, he's like a top 2 to top 3 ranked offensive tackle in the upcoming draft. So that's another big move being made. So there's your probably likely first overall pick, and then at least a top 10 guy as well. Meanwhile, NFL-wise, the Ravens have agreed to a new 5-year, $100 million contract extension with star linebacker Roquan Smith. Those terms agreed upon today. Pro Bowl linebacker now signing or agreeing to a 5-year deal will make him the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the National Football League. The extension, $100 million, includes $45 million fully guaranteed, $60 million in total guaranteed. And of course, he was originally with the Chicago Bears, but the Ravens, as they do, just talk about acquiring talent. I mean, they do that about as well as anybody. But yeah, big new deal for Roquan Smith, now the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the NFL, and very fitting with just all Georgia, Just all Georgia news coming up everywhere you look. Meanwhile, Commanders, Not a bad way to close things out necessarily for the Washington Commanders. It's been a very up and down year in so many ways, but they have fired now offensive coordinator Scott Turner officially, which I think if you watch them, that doesn't probably come as much of a surprise. They got to figure out the quarterback spot at some point in time, but that move made today by Ron Rivera, and so offensive coordinator Scott Turner, according to Tom Pelissero, out in Washington.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It was a nice way to end the year, but all it did was maybe frustrate you more that they couldn't do that more. They had a chance to get to a playoff if they just beat Cleveland at home, and they blanked the bed. And
the coach didn't even know.
Even realize that they had that much importance, which was stunning. I haven't seen much about Rivera and anything about him or someone else taking his place. I'm not sure it matters with them, but yeah, the offense.
Let's give them some credit. I mean, they were feisty. They could fight a little bit, but they definitely need to figure out the quarterback spot. That's for sure.
Until they get somebody that can do more than walk and chew gum at an NFL level, then they're just going to be who they are.
And finally, Carlos Correa has finally seemingly reached a new deal, and it's with yet another team. He's been through this song and dance before, but for the second offseason in a row, he is signing, it looks like, with the Minnesota Twins. Carlos Correa, former Astros star, apparently reaching a 6-year deal with the Minnesota Twins that will all be pending a physical. You know, last year he agreed to a 1-year deal with the Twins, now looking again at this 6-year, $200 million. But he's got some issues with a surgically repaired lower right leg, and that's why you've seen him come to agreements with a couple of different teams. And that was first with the Giants, a 13-year, $350 million deal, and they ended up canceling his introductory press conference after reports about concerns over the physical came out. That happened back on December 13th. Then 8 days later, after the press conference is canceled and these health concerns are raised, he agrees to a 12-year, $315 million contract, this time with the New York Mets. Guess what? Pending a physical. And really, it's been at a stalemate ever since then. And there were, imagine that, concerns about his leg. And so that fell through, and now he has agreed to his third deal with his third different team in the last 5 weeks. And we'll see what happens now, but he could very well be headed back to Minnesota to play with the Twins on a long-term deal. But again, just in agreement at this point, and fool me once, fool me twice, all that jazz. But it looks like he could be heading back to Minnesota, 6 years, $200 million. So that's a Carlos Correa update from the baseball offseason, as that will start to get rolling really hot and heavy here over the next few weeks, the lead up to the season. But there are a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. A couple of notes, Baylor notes to close out the segment. Sarah Andrews recognized with the National Player of the Week. Also, Baylor was named the ESPN Team of the Week. They had a couple of top 25 road wins. They play Wednesday night at home against Oklahoma State. Also, the women's top 25, Baylor didn't move much. They're now 18th overall. South Carolina remains unanimous at number 1. Iowa State, the highest-ranked Big 12 team, at 15. Oklahoma and Kansas are 19th and 23rd. The men, Baylor men, out of the top 25. It's been a while. The top 5, Houston, Kansas, Purdue, Alabama, Tennessee. Iowa State and TCU are 14th and 17th. But the two highest-ranked teams in the Big 12, Texas, they had the loss, but 10th overall, Kansas State. They had a nice win against Oklahoma State on the road, UT did. And Kansas State, of course, with a brilliant week, winning at Texas and Baylor. Jerome Tang and the Wildcats are up to number 11. When we come back, Jake Roberts, the newest member of the Baylor football team, the tight end from North Texas, is transferring to Baylor. His decision, why that happened, what it means, next on 365 Sports. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco, where you can find the best elite cigars anywhere you want, and also loaded up in their 48-foot walk-in humidor. The number one cigar in 2021, the Rocky Patel Numero Uno. It's there. The Padron, the highest-ranked cigar in 2021, the Padron 1964, it's in there. But also the Numero Uno is a very popular and surging name in the cigar business from Rocky Patel. They have that. But Monte Cristo, Romeo and Julieta, Ashton, if you want it, they have it. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, also with Vita Dreams. It's a gummy CBD product that if you have one, It depends. You'll learn where you need to take it, when you need to take it. 15 to 30 or an hour before you want to fall asleep. It allows you to fall asleep comfortably, to get a full night's rest where you don't toss and turn. It's Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Here we go, this 5 o'clock hour. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist on many things NFL at the bottom of the hour. The playoffs start this week. He, of course, also in Houston on Lovie Smith, no longer the head coach of the Texans. His thoughts about that. But we're now joined by Jake Roberts, who's now Baylor tight end. Jake Roberts had been at North Texas. He joins Craig. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. Jake, thanks to you very much for your time. Whenever I've asked anybody, I've always heard and been told how much people really, really appreciated you and who you are as a person as much as a player. So let's go through this portal. You enter the portal. You're going to Baylor. You're coming to Baylor, transferring to Baylor. How did all that go down, and how many options did you have? Because you seem to be a pretty popular player.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good amount of options, but I just had to go with what I knew, building relationships with these guys over the phone. Baylor was one that just continued to stick out. They were extremely consistent in my recruitment, and I just felt like it was a place I needed to definitely come and visit. And then, I mean, after the visit, it just solidified what I was thinking, and, I made the move.
Jake, who were some of the guys that you talked to that reached out initially and started to build that relationship with you? And what was it like being on campus? What were some of the highlights of that for you?
Yeah, so, I mean, the guys that I really built the relationships with were Coach Bolfing, Tyler Bolfing, and then Coach Grimes were my primary recruiters. And I had some prior relationships with some of the guys. I knew who Dominic Richardson, the transfer running back. We played for the same guy in high school, but he coached at my high school. So I knew Dominic, and I just kind of had asked him what he thought before I'd even came to campus. But, I mean, when I came to campus, I just really liked the people. I mean, every place is going to have, the bells and whistles and stuff that might be a little more important coming out of high school. But, as a transfer, it's a football decision. And, I mean, football-wise, I felt there wasn't a better fit for me than Baylor, I mean, the guys that recruited me, they were consistent, had a clear plan for what I could bring to the team, and it just made me really excited about it. I mean, Waco seems like a great place, similar to what I'm used to in Norman and Denton, nothing too crazy, and it just seems like a really good fit. All the guys that I talked to on the team had great things to say, and I vetted this process very thoroughly. I did a lot of research, so I feel very confident in my decision.
Jake, when you entered the portal, obviously everyone starts to contact you. How soon among those who contacted you was Baylor?
Baylor was one of the first. Probably in that first 5 schools that reached out. It was pretty fast. They had kind of they know who I am. I think my brother has an offer from Baylor, so they knew who the Roberts family was. And then I think when they saw my name hit the portal, they were intrigued with that.
So take us through how you let the staff know that you were going to come play in green and gold.
Well, I wrapped up my official on Sunday, and we got home. I just told him, I'm going to go home and think about everything and decompress a little bit, because I'd been on some trips prior to that, Arkansas and SMU. So I had a lot on my mind, and in my stomach, I had been eating a lot. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. I felt really good leaving campus. I mean, I had kind of made up my mind, but I just wanted to go home, talk to my folks, and, you don't ever want to jump the gun too early, just make an emotional decision or anything. So I just wanted to get home. So I got home, talked about it really, and then I just called Coach Grimes, and it was pretty late. It was probably like 10:30. I just let him know. I just let him know I wanted to be a Bear. I was ready to come and, ready to go to work, and then called Coach Aranda in the morning, sealed the deal. And, it was just kind of – I felt really good about Baylor going into the visit, and then the visit really just solidified what I had already had in my mind. Even with everything, nothing bad against any other schools. I just felt like Baylor was the right fit for me.
What was the reaction compared to Jeff Grimes compared to when you called Dave Aranda?
Coach Grimes they were both fired up, but just in their own way. Coach Grimes, a little louder and more like me. And then Coach Aranda with his calm demeanor, he expressed his excitement as well. It was really a pleasure getting to know him and seeing what the culture was about, what Baylor was about. And I think that was another thing that really drew me to Baylor. Like, I was looking for a really strong culture with guys that were like-minded to me. And I felt like I found the perfect spot with Baylor, in terms of that. I really like what Coach Arand is about with the person over player, and all that stuff is really solid, not just for my playing career, but going into the future.
So, Jake, Baylor's obviously, you had to love the fact that they use their tight ends quite a bit. Ben Sims was a big-time target. Drake Dabney, Ben Sims moving on, but Drake Dabney until he got hurt, and they've got some other guys as well. So what did Coach Grimes kind of talk to you about, Coach Bolfing, in terms of, what they're expecting, what they're looking at, and, just you as a part of this roster?
Just being an all-around tight end, just a do-it-all guy. That Ben left, and the room is obviously really solid, and I'm excited to get in there and meet those guys. I'm just excited about what I can bring. Leadership as well is something that they had hit on that I can bring to the team, and I'm just excited to get around the guys and make some new friends and see some new things, and get around that culture. And, I'm just going to go in there, work my tail off, and contribute to the team however they see fit and however I can.
Yeah, they run that wide zone, and obviously that they use the tight ends. I'm not saying better than anybody else, but they sure do seem to have the tight end as a major part. And they'll go, 3 sets of tight ends in a certain
exactly.
So that's the more the merrier, and the depth you need. Drake Dabney's back. Yeah,
absolutely. It's not like, dogging another guy or I'm this or that. Like, not at all. Like, I value what they run offensively, and it obviously seems like the offense. The tight ends are a focal point. So, like you said, the more the merrier. I think I can just come in and, add to what they're building. And, then we can have the freedom to run 13 personnel, run those 3 tight end sets. And I'm excited for that stuff, to be in an offense like that. That's something that I'm not used to in terms of personnel wise, and, scheme wise is a little different than what I'm used to as well. And I love my time at North Texas. Absolutely nothing bad to say about those guys. I love them to death. And it's just, I think I can really grow my game here. And it's not as much as what I can bring to the team. Obviously, that's important, but I feel like I can really be stretched and grown as a player and a man at Baylor.
That's awesome to hear. It sounds like you made a really, well thought out and wise choice, and a lot of that adds up with what we hear about the program constantly. Now, you mentioned a little while ago your brother Nate. I know he's already being recruited. He's a 2025 tight end with a lot of schools already talking to him. Have you had the brother talk about your process and recruiting advice? And now you've gone through it a second time around, but what's that like to have a pair of brothers going through that, and how do you kind of lean on each other?
It's awesome, honestly. It's really cool to have the experiences that I'm having, especially with the kind of player that Nate's turning into. He's going to be a high profile guy coming out of high school. He already really is. And I'm just trying to be like a steady guy that he can be a sounding board. I can be a sounding board for him. What I try to tell him is to look at what's really important. And that's what I've learned this second time around. Like I said, every place is going to have bells and whistles and amazing facilities and this and that. And they're going to try to get you with that stuff. But I told him, you got to make a right decision. You got to be with the right people. Being an offense that you're going to be able to flourish and develop wholeheartedly as a player, and then being a culture that's going to grow you as a man and push you to be the best you can. And just, what I've been telling him is just to stay humble, as a young kid with a lot of those offers. He's only a sophomore. I know I would have been like, my head would have blown up. I would have been like, I am him. Like I'm everything. So I'm just trying to tell him, keep your head on straight and there's always someone trying to come outwork you. So just I'm really proud of him and how he's handled everything. He seems like he's got a good vision for himself, and I'm just going to be here. Anything that he needs. I mean, he's my brother, so I mean, I got him.
Jake, you have 2 years left. You have the COVID year. What's your status as far as what you have remaining if you want to continue to play college football?
I have 2 years left on the field, and then I guess a COVID year. So I have 2 years to play. I don't really know how all that works, but all I know is that I never redshirted, and I have a COVID year, and I have 2 years to actually be on the field. So
okay. All right, so Taylor Bryan, he likes you a lot. Of course, you know who he is, media relations at North Texas, and mentioned a lot of great things. Like, he even mentioned that the fit for what Coach Grimes does, et cetera. You're a hell of a blocker, can catch it as well. He mentioned this, though. You were credited for a 10-yard rush. Can you take us through that play and what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny he mentions that. Yeah, no. That's like my little claim to fame at UNT. I'm like second behind Brock Bowers in tight end rushing yards in the country. Because no tight ends get the rock in the running game except Baylor. I mean, they caught a couple little jet sweeps for touchdowns, but still not 10 yards, But yeah, so we were at Western Kentucky. I was in like a protection, and then it was just like a protection into a leak out into the flat, and our quarterback, it was kind of like, is he going to run it? Is he going to throw it? So I'm just kind of like drifting towards the sideline, making myself available. And he ended up just throwing it behind him. I was behind him, and he just ended up pitching it to me. And then I got like 10 yards. And I get after the game, and I'm looking at the stat sheet, and I'm like, they're trying to get it counted as a pass, but they ended up counting it as a run because I was behind Ani and behind the line.
He said that it may have been the longest run for a tight end, and then maybe the next week Brock Bowers went 75 yards to just obliterate. Yeah. Just how unfair, what an incredible player he is, and of course Georgia winning last night. Yeah.
I mean, that dude is something else, man. I mean, and he has to play another year of college. It's insane. I mean, he's super athletic, and I mean, yeah, I do that, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, I wanted the receiving yards. I wasn't all about the rush, but then he goes and takes a jet sweep 75 for a touchdown. So I was like, yeah, that's tough. But yeah, that kid is a great player, and I mean, he's going to be good for a long time.
Are you glad your decision and all this is over?
Yes, most definitely. It's been really stressful, and a lot of people trying to pull me in a lot of different directions. And, and that's just the nature of the beast, with the short window. And I mean, it is what it is. But I think I made a thorough and thought out, correct decision. And I'm just glad it's over with. And now I can get to what's really important, which is football.
Jake, thanks for your time. We'll see you at some point, hopefully when spring drills begin. And you're on campus, sir. And look forward to covering you and also meeting you in person. Thanks for your time today, and congratulations on what you've done as far as your decision, no matter where you would have ended up.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything.
Jake Roberts, North Texas, tight end now at Baylor University, and a guy that can block. And, of course, they do use the tight end extremely well. And that was something that attracted him, along with the relationships that he found and met with players and coaches at Baylor.
Yeah, fun interview. I mean, sometimes it can be very hit or miss when you're talking to younger folks. That's just the nature of, being on radio. Older folks get nervous talking on radio or talking on TV or whatever, but he's made for it, man. He can hold up a conversation well, and that was a fun listen. And I mean, that tight end room is certainly, an area where they've put a lot of focus the last couple of years. Ben Sims had a great career. Drake Dabney was well on his way to having a pretty good season before he got hurt. And I know there's some other bodies in there as well, but it sounds like, he's going to be able to bring a lot to the table as an all-around player. And I love what he, had to say about the culture and just the coaches and all of that. But it's a good get for them. And, his brother, he's talking about him, cool to hear about a pair of brothers going through similar experiences. But his brother, from what I've been told and from what guys pointed out to me earlier, I mean, he's still got a couple years left, but he's already got boatload of offers from OU and Tennessee and Arkansas and Wisconsin and some other schools as well. So, that's just a name to keep tucked away in the back. But for these next couple of years, I mean, this is a guy who sounds like he's got his head on his shoulders, all the way correctly, and sounds like he'll. He mentioned leadership too. I thought that was interesting. That that's kind of what they're expecting of him, and that's something that he could certainly use as we saw this past season. So yeah, I love the pickup, and see him in spring.
We'll see him at some point when Baylor eventually launches spring drills. That does seem to be quite a long time from now, and it'll be right around the corner. Last night, Georgia winning their back-to-back national titles. There haven't been many that have done that. There really haven't been. You would think, no one's ever won 3 straight. Remember the USC-Texas greatness of Vince Young in 2005? That would have been 3 in a row. One of them would have been partial, but would have been 3 in a row. Nebraska, 94, 95, did not in 96. Other schools that have won it, even the Miamis, others who have won back-to-back, Alabama. Nobody has ever gone 3 straight. And that's what you're going to hear throughout most of the offseason, and Georgia's set up to be able to do that. But there's a reason for 100-some years of college football that no one's done it, and that's what Georgia faces. But if they're as good as they were the last couple of years, they'll have one hell of a chance to maybe finally break that drought.
Yeah, and to think that Ohio State almost knocked them off. I mean, that's the thing. Is that
a pull hook field goal.
That, they were as dominant as they were last night, and yet they almost weren't in that position. But have you seen their schedule next year?
Yes. In fact,
I know that's a big talking point today.
Numerous times that other than the SEC, it's like UAB, Ball State, whoever it might be.
It's pathetic by competition standards, and I don't mean that as a slight to Georgia. I know that they're clearly not afraid to play anybody, but they had a game drop off and they had to make it up, and as a result, it is probably the most cakewalk of a schedule that you could draw up for the Bulldogs, and so that's something that's gone viral over the last 24 hours or so, maybe a little less than that, but really ever since that game was wrapping up. And yeah, now that you mention it, I do recall them putting that up on the screen. I was kind of in and out, I'll tell you, as far as the commentary and what was being talked about. I mean, they were already out of, it felt like, material to start the fourth quarter, and so I was kind of in and out. But UT Martin to start off the year, I mean, we know nothing crazy is going to happen there. Same thing with Ball State. Then they got South Carolina, UAB, at Auburn. I believe that's their first road game, is like a month into the season, all the way until September 30th. They finally go to Auburn, which who knows with Hugh Freeze and year number 1. They got Kentucky at home, at Vanderbilt. They've got a bye, Florida in Jacksonville, world's largest cocktail party. Who knows with Billy Napier and company? They got a lot of work to do. They're nowhere near Georgia's level. Missouri at home, Ole Miss at home. Tennessee on the road. Now, that could be interesting, but that's all the way at November 18th, and then Georgia Tech to close out the season. So there's, one game that you actually go like, maybe, and then you're automatically moving on?
They were given a lot of, grief about this, but let's not forget, they were supposed to play Oklahoma.
Right.
So that game gets canceled, and there's, it's like Baylor was going to play La Tech, not Oklahoma or Georgia, but they were going to play La Tech. They ended up having to find somebody. They played Albany.
Yeah.
So Georgia was supposed to play Oklahoma in a home-and-home from 2023 and 2031, and you wonder if anything to do with the SEC, even though Oklahoma would not be a part of the conference at the earliest until 2024. Why the 23 game? But there's probably reasons for that. So that's one reason why they had that schedule, and unfortunately coming off an incredible run of back-to-back.
Yeah, it's not entirely their fault by any means, but it does then make that schedule even that much softer. And, I think anything other than running through the regular season with maybe a blip, like a slip against, and not a slip as in a loss, but like competitive game, like Tennessee. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, obviously there will be teams much better by the time we get there than we think they are right now on paper. There's a lot to change between now and the time a lot of these games kick off. But, yeah, on paper, that talk about the three-peat and the realism of the realistic possibilities of that's going to be a major storyline.
Georgia and Texas were scheduled to play back-to-back years in the late 20s, like 28, 29. Obviously, they'll play, possibly, depending on how they set up the SEC when Texas and Georgia, or Texas and Oklahoma join the conference following what appears to be this upcoming season.
Has A&M played Georgia yet?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
They haven't played Georgia.
And that was one of the things that was like, it's almost like that was an algorithm issue in the SEC, where you could go forever without playing other teams in your conference, even though you may have played somebody else, a crossover games and whatever else. It's kind of complicated. It all depends on how they set up the computer and what they want to do. And then you have rivalries and you have divisions and all that. All right, when we come back, John McClain, he is, of course, a Hall of Fame columnist, covers the NFL, his thoughts about the Texans, looking for a head coach again, and also the NFL postseason. This is 365. Huh?
2019.
Okay, well, then they
did. Yeah.
We'll be back with 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
All right, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, joins us Tuesdays in the mid part of the 5 o'clock hour. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, 365 Sports. So, John, you can see it coming. You know, I'm incredibly fond of Lovie Smith. He's had a great run at times in the NFL. Unbelievable person, but it didn't work out in Houston. What is next for the Texans?
Well, first of all, I've been a big Lovie fan for a long time. I haven't known him as long as you have, and I was wanting him to succeed, but they took a big step back, not just in their record. They were terrible under David Culley in his one season. David had never been a head coach, never been a coordinator. They liked him. They hired him, made a lot of mistakes, clock management, play calls, everything. So they bring in Lovie. Lovie, of course, was the third time he'd been a head coach. He didn't make any game management problems. Lovie's a smart guy. When he did something people didn't think he should do, like punting from the Indy 37 in the first game of the season, indoors, when a kicker who can kick it almost 60 yards, that was just a decision he made at the time. But they took a step back, and his biggest problem was promoting his quarterback coach, Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator, and giving him total control of the offense, and the offense was awful. Davis Mills showed so much promise at the end of his rookie season. He was mediocre to terrible all season, and it's the offense, not the defense. It caused Lovie Smith to be their second consecutive one-and-done coach. So I would imagine since Lovie was 63 and David Culley was 66 and Romeo Crennel, the interim coach for Bill O'Brien, was 73, that they're going to go younger. Usually you go from defense to offense. A guy that's hot on everybody's list is Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles. He calls plays for Nick Sirianni this season. He's done a tremendous job, been a coordinator with the Chargers. And D'Amico Ryans, who doesn't have as much experience, that's the guy everybody in Houston would like to have because he played here 6 years and he's one of the most popular players in history, and his defense is the best in NFL for a team that's won 10 games in a row. But I'd be surprised if they went from defense to defense, but it's always a possibility.
You play to win the game, John, and that's what the Texans did this past weekend. The come-from-behind victory over the Colts to close out the season, and in doing so, they do not have the number one overall pick that now goes to the Chicago Bears. What were your thoughts as that number one pick slipped away?
Greg, I thought they would lose it. Even though the Colts were bad, I thought they would win. Jeff Saturday would go out with a victory instead of a 7-game losing streak. It didn't happen. I was happy for Lovie, the coaches, the players. They didn't quit at the end of the season. They almost beat the Cowboys and the Chiefs. They beat the Titans. They looked pathetic in the previous game against the Jaguars, losing by 28 at home in a game that meant nothing to Jacksonville. And then Lovie got them back up to play hard, and they won. And, difference in the first and second pick, if you like one of those two quarterbacks, Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, better than the other one, then make the trade to move up and swap spots. If you like both of them near each other, then you just stay where you are. Obviously, Chicago will not want to trade down beyond the fourth pick, where Indianapolis needs a quarterback. You've got two division teams, Houston and Indianapolis, competing for a top pick and a quarterback. That could reap a windfall for the Bears. But the Bears need Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr. They would both fit in great in their defensive line. So it's going to be a fun draft, and I can't wait. I wish the Texans had the top pick, but they don't. And you always play to win, and they did, and they won.
John, the NFL made some news last week. Obviously, the news of DeMar Hamlin and how that improved over time. He's now, in a Buffalo hospital, but released from Cincinnati, and all of whatever was going on, of course, with that story. But then they decided they were going to get involved in the who's going to play games at home. Did you like the way all that went down?
Absolutely not. They had rules in place for if a team didn't play the same number of games. It's winning percentage. Why did they need to change it? A lot of people think it's public pressure because of Hamlin, for Goodell to try to help the Bills, because the Bills would not have gotten home field advantage because they played one fewer game, neither would Cincinnati. Cincinnati was beating Buffalo when he suffered the heart issue. And so I didn't like it. There was no need to change it. It only made it by one vote in the NFL, and I thought it was done. The league panicked for some reason. But you know what? The playoffs are here now. If your team loses, I'm guessing you might be a Bills fan, because if Buffalo ended up winning the Super Bowl, I think it would be even more special for them based on everything they've gone through since that Cincinnati game.
All right, so the Cowboys go to Washington. The Commanders, of course, they're a mess, but they made a nice run, and obviously the thoughts about Ron Rivera not quite understanding the value of that game with Cleveland, but they end up beating Dallas, and they beat them up. Cowboys had something to play for early on. Are they the most bipolar team you can remember as far as a franchise from most year to the next in the NFL?
We were talking about on my show here this morning in Houston about how much the population was not born when the Cowboys won their last Super Bowl, and I think that was 26 years ago. Dak Prescott is an issue. It's scary. If you're a Cowboy fan, no matter how much you love the star or how much you love Dak, you're worried. And he's going to go to Tampa. The Cowboys have the better team. They have better defense. They have more turnovers. They got a better running game. The Bucs can't run the ball worth a darn, but they do have Tom Brady. You don't want him to have the ball at the end of the game with a chance to win. I'm going to pick the Cowboys because I think they're a better team, and Brady's on his way out the door. But if Cowboys get beat, I think most of us think that Jerry Jones will go after Sean Payton, do whatever it takes to get him. And I think that Dak Prescott, if he has a bad game, there'll be a lot of people up there that say, we need to get either a great coach to coach him, like Sean Payton, or we need to get another quarterback.
John, does any of the matchups upcoming this Saturday, Sunday, Monday outside of Buccaneers, Cowboys, obviously on Monday night, but on Saturday, Sunday, what's the game or two that is on the slate you're most looking forward to?
I love the Baltimore-Cincinnati game. I wish Lamar Jackson were able to play. He's not. And it's the late game on Sunday night. Bengals have won 8 in a row, I think, and the second to the 49ers 10 in a row. Miami-Buffalo, even if Tua Tagovailoa comes back, that's Miami's best game of the year was losing to Buffalo a few weeks ago in the bad weather. I'm curious about Jacksonville because the Jaguars are a team I see twice every year and have in their existence, and they're on a roll. I think it'd be great if they won it. Wouldn't surprise me if Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence put on a great show. And another team that could win on the road, and there always will be upsets on the road in this round of the playoffs, could be the Giants at Minnesota. Minnesota, an improved team, but a negative point differential, which you don't see in a team that's won as many games. It wouldn't surprise me if the road teams, the Chargers, the Giants, and the Cowboys win in this round.
All right, so you asked me, you and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago that you have people that obviously are Baylor fans and others, that they were a little bit concerned about the NIL. I don't know if you saw this story yesterday, but the athletic department actually released that they now have their own NIL advisory board and are much more public with it than before.
Well, that's good because they've lagged way behind. The key to NIL, getting the word out to players and their parents so they'll know ahead of time, if I come to this school, I can be Bijan Robinson and get a Lamborghini for free. You know, they had him pose with that car so many times. University of Houston, every time they get an NIL, they bring in the company reps, the players, and they have a news conference. Since it's all over Houston, it's all over social media, and I hope Baylor starts doing that because you have rules to follow. I think most schools don't. It differs from state to state, and we know the NCAA has no power anymore. But I think the fact that Baylor's doing things, get the word out. I know I've got 150,000 followers on Twitter. I retweet everything I see on Baylor that's positive and some negative. And I want to know what's going on up there, and I'd be happy to publicize it on my talk shows here 6 times a week, San Antonio with you guys. I love publicizing what's going on at Baylor, and I want to know, what are they doing with NILs to attract players?
John, what did you think of that national championship game?
I was there. I went on a private jet courtesy of Mattress Mack from YalrySports.com, and I got chauffeured to the game in a Range Rover limo. I got put in a suite on the 30. It was a great experience. until about halfway through the first quarter. We were with so many TCU fans that took over the suites, and they probably had more than the Georgia fans, but they were so devastated. None of us could have expected it. Mattress Mack bet $3.1 million to win 9, and the spread was 13. And I do a weekly video with him that's posted on gallerysports.com. And his attitude is, hey, you win some, you lose some. You can do that when you win $75 million on your World Series team.
Yeah, no kidding. I did not know that you were with Mattress Mack, but I did see a picture of him last night. People were talking about that bet and how it didn't go well. But you're absolutely right. He's able to swallow some of those losses, unlike many of us out there would be able to. I had no idea you were there. That's awesome, despite the game not being so great.
Craig, it was a last-minute deal where they called me, Gerald McNeil from Baylor, the Ice Cube, who works with him, called and said, hey, Mack's giving us this plane. We're going to the championship game. Be at the airport, private airport at 8. I didn't know where the private airport was. And it was an incredible experience. I could get used to that lifestyle, let me tell you. Never, when I was growing up in Waco, did I ever think I was going to be on a private plane, and I was. And now I'm waiting for the next time with my fingers crossed.
Man, I'll tell you what, I have been on back in the day when teams recruited players, you could fly or cover the recruitment behind the scenes. Arkansas and Ken Hatfield were recruiting a running back at Longview named Joe Johnson. And I actually went on his recruiting trip as a TV kid and filmed it. And, you know, then that changed. You weren't allowed to be seen. You can't be seen on camera. You couldn't be there on National Signing Day. That's the only time that I remember being on a private jet. And it is that was 30, 40 years ago. And imagine what they're like now.
The first plane I ever flew on was from Waco to Odessa for a junior college journalism conference. And I was 2 seats in the plane behind the pilot. And I got to tell you, nobody believes this, but the plane had a horn so it could honk at the birds. And people think I dreamed it or made it up, but I did not. And so this one was a little different than the one I took in Waco in 1972.
Man, that's
can only
awesome.
Imagine.
Good for you, John. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for your time. And
Second Bears.
That's John McClain of course, GallerySports.com, 610 Sports in Houston, and Hall of Fame columnist, who will be, when they get to the Pro Football Hall of Fame meetings and stuff, will be in Phoenix this year to pick the next class. Some are already pretty much in, but he is very heavily involved in that.
Yeah, I saw a pic, like I just said, of Mattress Mack, and I forget who was sitting next to him, but he was just sitting there, and he looked a little down, but as John said, he made tens of millions off of the Astros just recently, and they won the World Series, too, on top of that, so he's doing A-okay. But, yeah, he's really carved out a niche for himself these last few years of just, like, nationally, people know who Mattress Mack, the crazy Houston furniture owner is that's putting down major bets on whatever title game there is. It's pretty cool that he was able to be a part of that.
All right, when we come back, no top 5 today. We got another break to do, Garrett. Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah, let's do a break, come back with a couple of notes. Lincoln Riley today made a comment or met with the media about was there going to be any kind of coaching changes? Or Roger the Dodger, a big USC fan, not happy with what he heard. That plus more. This is 365 Sports.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiancé deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Just a couple of notes to close out the show. And again, so many of you, we appreciate you in the chat room. And sometimes the conversation goes off the rail. But most of today has been, of course, about Georgia with back-to-back national titles. And some have said, well, that's because TCU didn't deserve to be or they shouldn't have been. Based on the rules of where we are in college football, they damn sure should have been in the game because they earned it based on the rules of how the game or the championship is set up. It shouldn't have been Michigan. And so it wasn't Ohio State they lost in the other week. Now, you can argue about who. That's always the case. But they did what they're supposed to do. Unfortunately for that, it ended with them getting splattered by Georgia. Lincoln Riley apparently had like an hour or two sit down with the media. They cover USC, including our friend Ryan Abraham, who might be joining us tomorrow, and basically discussed that there would be no coaching staff changes, including there were thoughts that because of the defense that Alex Grinch's seat was hot. Apparently that's not the case, that he will be back. And Roger Dodger on the chat room is not real thrilled with that.
I mean, how could you watch them this year and be real thrilled with that? How could you watch Alex Grinch prior to this year and have watched him at Oklahoma and see what's in store? It's basically more of what they did this last year. Maybe a couple of results go differently, and ultimately that'll be enough to put them in a playoff. But they're not winning a national championship based on the way they're set up right now. I don't care how good Lincoln Riley's offense is, and we saw it over and over at Oklahoma. We saw them get in there. And what happened against the likes of a Georgia, for example? Even a big lead against Georgia didn't even end up mattering in the game that they got closest to being able to maybe pull one out. But, yeah, I didn't expect him to come out, today and didn't even know he was talking, obviously, not being on that beat, but didn't expect him to have an announcement ready the day after the national championship game. And I didn't think he was going to make a move ultimately, but to just matter-of-factly just go ahead and drop it and like, nope, we're not changing, and boom, here it is. I can see where some USC fans are certainly disappointed, and I have to read into more of the comments, but I would hope that, there is some level of accountability, and it's not just like, nope, we're just staying the way that it is and that's all there is to it, because that would be something that would really grind my gears as a Southern Cal fan. I want to hear there's progress being made, and it's not just simply getting better recruits. Now, he can sell that for the next year or two, but in the NIL era, USC has no excuses to not get the recruits they want. So, I'm sure there will be a lot of talent that goes pouring in there over these next few months. And the offense will be great, but ultimately that defense has to get better. And I don't know how much better it gets with Alex Grinch, but he's getting another year, so we'll see.
USC fans, this is from Roger Dodger, USC fans blame only Alex Grinch for the struggles this year. Lincoln Riley is sticking his neck out on this one. I've already reached out to Ryan Abraham and see if we can get him on tomorrow to kind of give us his background as he covers USC so well.
Well, I mean, we saw plenty of Alex Grinch here in the Big 12 too, and they'll have Caleb Williams back, so there's that, and he's not coming back after that. So you better make this one heck of a run next year. I would really be building that up. That he's obviously the returning Heisman Trophy winner, trying to become Archie Griffin and be the only guy with two of them. And so they'll, be, I'm sure, preseason top what have you. They'll be up near the top because of Caleb Williams, but. Yeah, that defense has to get better if they want to be in a game like last night, and bringing back Alex Grinch is not necessarily the answer to that improving, but, it's only 1 year that we've seen. See what he does this next season, and then after that, it could get really interesting.
Yep. Kealani, by the way, is this a Baylor channel? We are Sikkim 365 Radio from when we began. 365 Sports, of course, is our name on the YouTube channel, saying that I think 2023 will be the first time Baylor will play an out-of-conference game against a Power 5 team in a long time. They just played the last 2 years against Brigham Young.
That's not a Power 5 team.
I know, but still a team. And then they start to have the Utahs, the Oregons, the Auburns, and believe me, as someone who's covered them, and Craig has as well for a decade or so, thank God. It's well past time for them to start to get teams that are from the other schools in the Power 5. All right, thanks to Garrett Ross, Jacob Wilson, who is still here as well. Thanks to Jack McKenzie. Emery sent me a note for what we're going to have tonight on the CW channel with Sports Tonight at 10:30. And, of course, always our incredible sponsors. Paul, we think, is back tomorrow. Craig Smoak, great doing it with you, son. Craig Smoak with me on 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak. Good night. Have a great, great Tuesday evening, and we're back tomorrow.
Ideal MRI is a small family business